Chapter 1319. Yi Xian thought to himself as he used his Eye of the Soul on young Master Hu. However, the notification that he had imagined sounded, but the notification was wrong. Ding! Control failed. Yi Xian instantly controlled the other two guards, but Yi Xian actually failed to control young Master Hu. Young Master Hu frowned as he was attacked by the soul attack. He looked at Yi Xian. His first reaction was that it was Yi Xian's doing. At this moment, Yi Xian also realized why young Master Hu was able to block his soul attack. There was actually more than half a charm fusion crystal in young Master Hu's body. The charm fusion crystal could greatly increase the strength of one's soul and the charm ability of the fox charm people. After leaving the Blood Rock continent, this was the first time Yi Xian saw someone condense a charm fusion crystal. Although it wasn't completely condensed, it was already very good. As for the golden armored man who left that day, Yi Xian couldn't see if the golden armored man also had a charm fusion crystal because he was too far away and his realm was too low. Luo, the charm fusion crystal in this brat's body is almost fully condensed. Is it useful to you? Yi Xian hurriedly asked in his mind. Charm fusion crystal? In the planting space, Luo's eyes lit up when she heard this. She said, "Yes, as long as you give it to me, my charm fusion crystal will become stronger." "Alright, then I'll get it for you." Yi Xian's eyes widened. At this moment, young Master Hu knew that he was attacked by Yi Xian's soul attack. He couldn't help but shout angrily, "How dare you use a soul attack on me? Catch him!" Unfortunately, when he finished speaking, the two people behind him didn't move. The moment young Master Hu turned his head, the two people suddenly attacked. Ka! A large hand directly locked onto young Master Hu's throat, while the other person stabbed a sword into young Master Hu's chest. What? Young Master Hu's eyes widened. He didn't understand why the two guards sent by his father-in-law would attack him. Suddenly he felt something and hurriedly shouted, "What are you doing?" He felt that this hand had already grabbed the charm fusion crystal in his body. This charm fusion crystal had not been completely formed yet. If he forcibly removed it, his cultivation realm would fall. It might even fall from the fragmentation realm to the fulfillment realm. No way. Young Master Hu was shocked and hurriedly made a move. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared and grabbed the guard's hand. Pooh! Blood splattered everywhere. As soon as the charm fusion crystal was extracted from young Master Hu's body, young Master Hu's true energy leaked out. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation level dropped to the first stage of the fragmentation realm. With the charm fusion crystal, I can't control you. Now that you don't have the charm fusion crystal, let's see what you can do. Yi Xian's eyes flickered as he used his Eye of the Heart. Ding! Control successful. This time young Master Hu was successfully charmed by Yi Xian. Greetings, Master. Young Master Hu had his charm fusion crystal taken out, said weakly. Not bad. I haven't fallen to the fulfillment realm yet. Yi Xian glanced at him and said slowly. At this moment, young Master Hu had fallen to the first stage of the fragmentation realm. His combat power was less than 10%. Then Luo suddenly appeared and took the charm fusion crystal from Yi Xian's hand. Thank you, young master. Luo chuckled. Yi Xian nodded slightly. Then he took out the portrait from before and asked, "Do you know this person?" The portrait in his hand was of the golden armored man who took away the dark underworld duo demons. When young Master Hu saw it, he nodded. "I know him. He's my father, Hu Tai." As expected, Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. He had guessed so before because young Master Hu looked too similar to the golden armored man. What's his current cultivation level? Where is he? Yi Xian continued to ask. The last time I saw my father was half a year ago. At that time he was at the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm. I heard that he took on a mission last month. I don't know if he has returned to the Fox Mei clan yet. Young Master Hu said honestly. 4th stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian gulped. With his current cultivation level, he couldn't deal with an expert at the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm. Moreover, Hu Tai might have handed the dark underworld duo demons to a stronger escort and received a reward. The worst-case scenario was that he had broken through to the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. Alright. Then, Is there anyone in your Fox Mei clan who has condensed the charm fusion crystal? Yi Xian continued to ask. Yes, there are still some. Young Master Hu nodded and said. However, Master, the person who refines the charm fusion crystal must be a member of the Fox clan. Moreover, there's a possibility that they will explode and die. It's fine. It's a piece of cake for me to refine these. Luo Luo knew that young Master Hu was talking about her, so she quickly replied. When Yi Xian heard this, he was relieved. After all, Luo Luo wouldn't joke around with her life. Moreover, she had already refined one crystal. This wasn't a big deal. Most importantly, Luo Luo was a heaven-loathing fox. Her bloodline was so heaven-defying. Could it be that she couldn't even refine one charm fusion crystal? Tell me more about your clan, Yi Xian said. Then, young Master Hu told them about his clan without hiding anything. For example, he told them how many experts and geniuses there were in his clan. However, when he talked about a person, Yi Xian and Luo Luo were shocked. Not only did Hu Xinlong condense the charm fusion crystal, but she also cultivated the Eye of Charm? Yi Xian and Luo Luo exchanged glances. What's the Eye of Charm? Luo Luo asked curiously. Replying to Little Master, when someone condenses a complete charm fusion crystal, they can have 3 tails. If he cultivated 2 eyes of enchantment, he would have 6 tails. In the Fox Mei clan, the number of tails is used to determine one's aptitude and status. Young Master Hu replied. 3 tails, 6 tails. Yi Xian frowned. He remembered that Luo Luo only grew 3 tails after refining the first charm fusion crystal. At that time, the beast god bloodline had mutated once. Then Luo Luo cultivated the Heart Sutra of Charm and grew 6 tails. The beast god bloodline had mutated again because of that. Could it be that the Eye of Charm was the key to growing 9 tails? Since there are 3 tails, 6 tails, is there a 9 tails? Yi Xian asked again. Although young Master Hu was already his subordinate, he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't lose control. Just in case, he didn't want to reveal the Heart Sutra of Charm. Yes, with the Charm Fusion Crystal, you can grow 3 tails. With the Eye of Charm, you can grow 6 tails. As for how to grow 9 tails, you have to cultivate a technique called the Heart Sutra of Charm. Young Master Hu nodded. As expected, it was the Heart Sutra of Charm. Doesn't your clan have it? Yi Xian asked. Chapter 1320. Yi Xian exchanged glances with Luo Luo and asked, Has Hu Xinlong grown 6 tails yet? Not yet. She can only grow 6 tails if she cultivates the second Eye of Enchantment. Young Master Hu shook his head. Young Master, the Heart Sutra of Enchantment I obtained before was only incomplete. I only managed to cultivate it after I filled in the gaps in my inherited memories. Luo Luo said telepathically. Now that Yi Xian knew that the golden-armored man was young Master Hu's father, and that the Hu Mei clan had the method to cultivate the Eye of Enchantment, it seemed that he had to make a trip to the Hu Mei clan. If everything went well, Luo Luo might be able to transform into a 9-tailed beast again. At that time, Yi Xian's beast god bloodline would also evolve again. Can you touch the cultivation method to cultivate the Eye of Enchantment? Yi Xian asked again. Yes, but I can't bring the cultivation method out. I have to go in by myself. If Master wants to let Little Master in, I should be able to do it. Young Master Hu replied. All right. Yi Xian nodded. However, before leaving, Yi Xian naturally had to empty the interspatial rings of the people around him. Moreover, young Master Hu was the son-in-law of Winston City's city governor, who was at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. If he could control him, Yi Xian would definitely be able to break through to the 2nd level of the fragmentation realm. Therefore, he wanted to go to the city governor's mansion first. However, at the moment when he brought young Master Hu away from the great desert scene, a group of people stopped them. It's the city governor's guards. Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. The leader of this group of guards was at the 2nd level of the fragmentation realm. The other 4 were also at the 1st level of the fragmentation realm. You're looking for me? Young Master Hu asked in surprise. Young city governor, please come back with us. The city governor has an urgent matter. The leader of the guards said. What's the matter? Young Master Hu asked again. You'll know when we get back. The leader of the guards replied. At this moment, young Master Hu felt that something was amiss. This group of guards had treated him well before, but now. All right, let's go. Young Master Hu didn't think too much about it. Wait a minute. The city lord didn't invite random people to wait. The captain of the guards suddenly said. After he finished speaking, his gaze fell on Yixian. Miscellaneous people? Hearing this, Yixian was somewhat displeased. His eyes flickered a few times as he took control of this group of guards. Ding! Control successful. Ding! Control successful. Ding! Control successful. 5 system notifications rang out consecutively. Although the guard captain was at the second stage of the fragmentation realm, he was still easily subdued by Yixian. Why is your city lord looking for him? Yixian asked bluntly. The city lord thinks that the young city lord is too extravagant and unfit for important responsibilities, so he wants the young miss to break off the engagement. The captain of the guards answered directly. Annul the engagement? Yixian narrowed his eyes and looked at young Master Hu. So be it. This marriage was originally agreed to by my father. Do you think I Hu Lai care? Young Master Hu snorted coldly. Yixian did not care. Anyway, his purpose was to go to the city lord's mansion to borrow a sum of money to break through to the second stage of the fragmentation realm. However, this young master whose name was a little funny, he was actually called Hu Lai. Since the guard captain was under control, Yixian could naturally follow him. Then, the few of them headed for the city lord's mansion. However, just as they were rushing to Winzen City, they suddenly attracted the attention of a few people. These people were all at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. They concealed their auras and hid in the crowd. There are 4 at the second stage of the fragmentation realm, and even 1 at the third stage of the fragmentation realm? Yixian's footsteps paused. There was only 1 expert at the third stage of the fragmentation realm in Winzen City, and that was the city lord of Winzen City. Then was this expert just passing by, or did he have other motives? Soon Yixian found out. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly the sound of wind could be heard. What? The guard captain and young master whose 2 bodyguards trembled and directly raised their hands to fight back. Bam! 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 Their sneak attack was defeated. Who are you sneaking up on? The guard captain shouted at the sky. However, before he could finish his words, the group of experts hidden in the surroundings suddenly charged out. 4 at the second stage of the fragmentation realm, and 1 at the third stage of the fragmentation realm. As expected, we are the target. Yixian immediately reacted. No, to be precise, the target was not them but young Master Hu. Someone wanted to kill Hu Lai. It should be the underworld's assassins. I'll make sure you don't return. Yixian shouted in a low voice and directly used his mind's eye. Ding! Control successful. Ding! Control successful. Ding! Control successful. Ding! Control successful. 4 consecutive system notifications sounded. The 4 assassins at the second stage of the fragmentation realm were all under Yixian's control. Then Yixian focused his gaze on the assassin at the third stage of the fragmentation realm. Judging from his body shape, he should be a human. This Hu Lai is still useful to me. I can't let you kill her. Yixian's eyes flickered as he used his mind's eye again. The assassin at the third stage of the fragmentation realm shuddered and thought in shock. What a powerful soul attack. Who is it? To be able to effect his soul attack, it had to be at least at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. However, what he did not know was that the 4 experts at the second stage of the fragmentation realm, who had also accepted this mission, had already switched sides to Yixian's side. Whoosh! 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 The sound of wind appeared again. What? The assassin at the third stage of the fragmentation realm was shocked because the people who had sneaked up on him were his 4 companions. Boom! A muffled sound rang out, and the assassin at the third stage of the fragmentation realm was sent flying. He did not understand why his 4 companions would sneak up on him. At this time, a black stream of light had already darted behind him. I wanted to go to the city lord's mansion, but I think it's about time to kill you all. The corners of Yixian's mouth curled up slightly as he slashed out with his sword. Killing intent explosion. Flame Dragon's unparalleled slash. The golden flame dragon swallowed the assassin at the third stage of the fragmentation realm. However, as a professional assassin, his reaction was astonishingly fast. Whoosh! Suddenly, a golden slash shot out of the flame dragon's body. Swish! The assassin at the third stage of the fragmentation realm was directly beheaded. If it was a one-on-one situation, it would probably take Yixian a few seconds to kill him. However, the assassin at the third stage of the fragmentation realm was sneak attacked by his own people, so he was instantly killed. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. A system notification proved that the assassin was already dead. Yixian quickly went over and took the interspatial ring. Although there were many things inside, it was not enough. However, as long as he added the other 4 people's rings, it would be enough. When Yixian took the interspatial rings of the other 4 people, 2 system notifications finally rang out. Ding! Host has broken through. Host is currently at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. Chapter 1321. Ding! Host has made a breakthrough. Host is currently at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. Ding! Wei Zhentian has made a breakthrough. Host is currently at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. Yixian did not expect his breakthrough speed to surpass Luoluo and the old tree. TSK, I originally needed half a day. Now that young master's realm has surpassed mine, I think I only need an hour. The old tree in the planting space said with a smile. At this moment, there were only 7 Yuan palaces left in Yixian's body. The innate chi of the 8th Yuan palace that had just been shattered had once again fused with his physique. Who are you? Why do you want to kill Hu Lai? Yixian asked the 4 assassins. We accepted the mission from the North Upper City's underworld branch. Kill Hu Lai and we'll get 100,000 fragmentation pills. One of the assassins replied. 100,000 fragmentation pills? How generous! Yixian's heart trembled as he turned to look at Hu Lai. Do you know who wants you dead? Hu Lai thought for a moment and said, It should be my clansmen. My clan is currently fighting for power, so they might not want me to become the son-in-law of Winds and City's city lord. I see. Yixian could understand. If Hu Lai married the daughter of Winds and City's city lord, then Winds and City would be on his side. However, it was really ruthless to kill one's own clansmen in an internal struggle for power. In that case, let's go to your clan, Yixian said. Then he casually killed the remaining 4 assassins with a single sword strike. Yes, master. Young master Hu nodded and left with Yixian. Yixian originally wanted to break through to the second stage of the fragmentation realm, through Winds and City's city lord's mansion. However, he suddenly broke through earlier because of the song, so there was no need for him to go to Winds and City. He heard that the city lord of Winds and City was not bad. Yixian immediately left Winds and City with Hu Lai and headed to the Fox Mei clan on the west side of Winds and City. Along the way, the old tree and Luoluo also broke through to the second level of the fragmentation realm, giving Yixian the confidence to infiltrate the Fox Mei clan. With the help of the shadow steps, Hu Lai arrived at the Hu clan in half a day. The Hu clan was built in a valley, and there was a spirit gathering array inside. It was a pretty good place to cultivate. Master, I'll bring you in, Hu Lai said to Yixian. Yixian glanced at Luoluo and nodded slightly. This time, he was here to help Luoluo obtain the cultivation technique for the Eye of Charm and investigate Hu Tai's whereabouts at the same time. The moment he entered, Yixian saw a Fox clan member with 3 measurements passing by. Your Hu clan has produced quite a few geniuses. Yixian couldn't help but sigh. That's because the old ancestor of my armor possesses the noble bloodline of the Snow Wind Fox. He was once an elite at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. That's why my Hu family has been able to prosper for so long, Hu Lai replied. Snow Wind Fox, huh? Yixian narrowed his eyes. He remembered that Hu Lai had mentioned that Hu Xinlan not only cultivated the Eye of Charm, but also had the physique of a Snow Wind Fox. Moreover, she was the focus of the Hu clan's nurturing. She was much younger than Hu Lai, only 18 years old. It was said that she was about to break through to the 3rd stage of the fragmentation realm. However, Yixian didn't care about that. After entering the Hu clan, Hu Lai brought Yixian back to his residence to see if his father was home. However, Hu Lai was notorious. Along the way, many people looked at him with disdain, as well as Yixian and Luoluo. The old ancestor of the Hu clan was a white fox. However, after activating the bloodline of the Snow Wind Fox, he grew blue fur. His wife was a golden fox, so the Hu clan had all kinds of foxes. However, he had never seen a fox with golden fur like Luoluo. So Yixian asked Luoluo to cover up the golden fur. Master, please wait here for a moment. Hu Lai brought Yixian to a residence and said, Okay. Yixian nodded and watched Hu Lai leave. The mysterious underworld duo demons probably asked Hu Lai's father, Hu Tai, to search for him in Luoluo, so when he came in he changed his appearance. Even Luoluo wore a mask. Soon Hu Lai came out. My mother said that my father hasn't come back yet, but I've already taken a token to enter the Fox King Palace. Hu Lai handed the token to Yixian. I'm afraid I'll be exposed if I'm not a member of the Hu clan, right? Luoluo asked with a frown. No, my Hu clan has tens of thousands of clansmen. Hu Lai shook her head. But Luoluo is at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. Yixian suddenly reminded her. The second stage of the fragmentation realm. In fact, it wasn't a big deal. There were hundreds of experts at the second stage of the fragmentation realm in the Hu clan, but Luoluo was 2 years younger than Hu Xinlan, the number 1 genius of the Hu clan. She would be exposed if she went over. The guard is one of my clan brothers. He's at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. You just have to say that you're my father's illegitimate daughter. It won't be a problem, Hu Lai said. In that case, let's go. If it doesn't work, we'll force our way in. Yixian's eyes flickered. As long as he could get the cultivation method to cultivate the Eye of Charm, he would go even if it was a dragon's lair or a tiger's den. Then, Hu Lai led the two of them to the Fox King Palace. The Fox King Palace was an important place in the Hu clan. However, since nothing had happened in the Hu clan, most of the guards here had been removed. Hu Lai led Yixian and Yixian to the Fox King Palace. Then she jogged over and whispered a few words to the guard at the door. What? Illegitimate daughter? The guard was shocked. It was the first time he heard that Hu Tai had an illegitimate daughter. Shua, don't talk nonsense. My mother already knows. Hu Lai said in a low voice and handed an interspatial ring to him. This? The guard was a little hesitant. Then he took the interspatial ring. There were a total of 2,000 fragmentation pills in the interspatial ring. Alright, don't cause trouble after you go in. Otherwise, I won't be able to clean up the mess. The guard finally made the decision. After all, 2,000 fragmentation pills was already a considerable amount of wealth to him. Thank you, clan brother. Hu Lai thanked him. Speaking of which, what's wrong with your aura? Why does it seem like you've fallen back to the first tier of the void-breaking realm? The guard asked in surprise. Ahem, something went wrong with my cultivation. I'll be fine after I recover for a while. Hu Lai hurriedly found a reason to fill it in. Then she quickly ran down the stairs and told Yixian what happened. This guard was at the second tier of the void-breaking realm, and had almost condensed the amalgamation crystal of charm. Therefore, Yixian probably couldn't control him. Fortunately, the guard chose to turn a blind eye to it. Luoluo, go in with Hu Lai, Yixian said to Luoluo. Hu Lai's mother was an elder of the Hu clan. Luoluo had Hu Lai's mother's token, so she could enter. As for Hu Lai, he could enter and leave the Fox King Palace, so there was no problem. Chapter 1322. Okay. Luoluo nodded and followed Hu Lai into the Fox King Palace. Although Yixian was in possession of the technique, all Luoluo had to do was to read the technique out loud and Yixian would be able to copy it down. After a while, Luoluo began to report the technique word by word to Yixian. Ding! Copy successful. In less than a minute, a system notification rang out. There was an array in the Fox King Palace. Those who came out would forget the technique unless they had already mastered it or were halfway through it. Alright, come out. It's time to get down to business. Yixian transmitted his voice to Luoluo. Since the technique had been copied, Luoluo could cultivate in the plant space until she cultivated 2 eyes of charm. Boom! But at this moment, a rumbling sound came from the Fox King Palace. What? Yixian and the guards guarding the Fox King Palace were shocked. Someone had made a move in the Fox King Palace. Luoluo, what happened? Yixian asked anxiously. Hu Lai is dead. This sentence shocked Yixian. How did Hu Lai suddenly die? Who killed him? Yixian asked again. It's that Hu Xinlan. She was arguing with Hu Lai and accidentally killed him. Yes, she probably thought that Hu Lai was still in the second stage of the fragmentation realm, so she accidentally killed him. As Luoluo spoke, She left the Fox King Palace and appeared in front of Yi Xian. At the same time, the guard also rushed in. After such a thing happened, Yi Xian quickly called Luo Luo back to the plant space. Why did Hu Lai argue with someone for no reason? Yi Xian was helpless. But then again, if he hadn't snatched Hu Lai's charm fusion crystal, Hu Lai's realm wouldn't have dropped and he wouldn't have been killed by Hu Xinlan. Hu Lai's wounds have healed, but his realm hasn't. Now that he's dead, the experts of the Hu family might find out that the charm fusion crystal was lost. Yi Xian thought to himself. At this moment Luo Luo asked, "Young master, what should we do now? Should we just leave? We still don't know where Hu Lai's father Hu Tai is, so we still need to investigate. Let's wait and see first. If it doesn't match, we'll leave," Yi Xian said with narrowed eyes. The Hu clan's strength could be considered strong. And the two factions that were fighting for power both had fourth-stage fragmentation realm experts overseeing them. However, with Yi Xian's current realm, there was no need for him to fear a fourth-stage fragmentation realm expert. If he wanted to leave, no one could stop him. Soon, Hu Lai's clan brother hurriedly carried Hu Lai's corpse out. At the same time, many people quickly left to report to the higher-ups of the Hu clan. The Hu clan's two camps were led by the first elder and third elder. Hu Lai and her father Hu Tai stood on the side of the third clan elder. As for the person who killed Hu Lai, the number one genius of the Hu clan, Hu Xinlan, she stood on the side of the first clan elder. Now that Hu Xinlan had killed Hu Lai, the two sides might start a war because Hu Lai was Hu Tai's son. As for the golden-armored man, Hu Tai, he was one of the top experts of the Hu clan. However, before watching this good show, Yi Xian had to complete a mission. Whoosh! He immediately turned into a black streak of light and followed the footsteps of the Fox King Palace guard. "Sir, please wait," Yi Xian called out in a low voice. Hu Lai's clan brother stopped in his tracks and turned around. He recognized Yi Xian because Yi Xian was also brought here by Hu Lai. "I still have. What are you doing?" Before the second stage fragmentation realm expert could finish speaking, Yi Xian instantly appeared in front of him. Poof! Yi Xian reached out with his claw and directly pierced through the man's chest, taking out the charm fusion crystal that had yet to form. Then he used Mind's Eye on the man. Ding! Control successful. Hu Lai's clan brother Hu Su was controlled by Yi Xian. At the same time, his cultivation level dropped to the first stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian hurriedly threw a blood potion to him to heal his injuries. "Later, don't tell anyone you saw us," Yi Xian said to Hu Su. "Yes, master." Hu Su nodded and immediately left. Hu Lai was greedy by nature, but he was considered an elite in the Hu clan. Now that he was accidentally killed by his own clansmen, this was not a small matter. Yi Xian was waiting to watch a good show. If the two sides fought, he would still help the third clan elder. After all, Hu Lai was one of his people before he died. Soon, the news of Hu Lai's death reached the ears of the Hu clan's higher-ups. Oh no! The expressions of the first clan elder's people changed drastically when they heard the news. Was the stalemate going to be broken? Immediately, both sides quickly gathered at the Fox King Palace. There were 4 clan elders in the Hu clan, all of whom were at the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm. The first and second clan elders lived together in the East Courtyard, while the third and fourth clan elders lived together in the West Courtyard. At the same time, Hu Lai's father, Hu Tai, was the third clan elder's grandson. In other words, the dead Hu Lai was the third clan elder's great-grandson. Both sides gathered a large number of experts in front of the Fox King Palace. Hu Lai! When a middle-aged woman saw Hu Lai's body, she immediately burst into tears. At this time there was a wound on Hu Lai's chest. His heart was pierced through. When the third clan elder saw his great-grandson's body, he was furious and shouted, "Hu Xinlan, how dare you kill your own clansman?" Hu Xinlan was an 18-year-old girl from the Fox clan. She had already grown 3 tails and was at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. She did not expect that she would kill Hu Lai. How was this possible? After all, she had fought Hu Lai once last month, and Hu Lai's strength was not so weak. However, Hu Lai was indeed a little strange today. His aura was weak and he seemed to be injured. Hu Xinlan was only an 18-year-old girl after all. She only wanted to torture Hu Lai. Now that she had become the sinner of the entire clan, she did not know what to do. Xinlan, what's going on? Why did you attack him? The second clan elder walked out. Great-grandfather Hu Xinlan looked at Hu Lai's body speechless. At this time, a few people in the Fox King Palace stood out and truthfully described what happened that day. At that time when Hu Xinlan saw Hu Lai, she wanted to go over and show off her talent. At the same time she wanted to attack Hu Lai. Therefore they had a dispute and fought. However, no one expected that Hu Lai could not even withstand a single attack from Hu Xinlan and was killed in an instant. The sword chi pierced through Hu Lai's body and hit the pillar of the Fox King Palace, causing it to collapse. This was what Yixian heard at that time. He couldn't even withstand a single attack and was killed in an instant. How is this possible? The third clan elder was shocked. He knew Hu Lai's strength very well. Although he could not defeat Hu Xinlan, he was not so weak that he would be killed in an instant. Chapter 1323. The third elder went over and carefully examined Hu Lai's body. Fortunately, Yixian's blood had a good healing effect, so there were no scars left. However, it should not be forgotten that experts of the manifestation realm and above had spiritual senses. What? Hu Lai's charm fusion crystal is gone. The third elder said in surprise. Everyone present was shocked when they heard that. The charm fusion crystal was gone? Almost everyone present had a charm fusion crystal in their body, but it varied in size. Most people did not have a complete charm fusion crystal, but that did not mean they did not have one. However, there was no charm fusion crystal in Hu Lai's body. Could it have been taken away by someone? Or was it gone before he died? The third elder suddenly stood up and asked, "Who took Hu Lai's charm fusion crystal?" No one present said a word. It was Hu's elder brother who carried Hu Lai's body outside. No one else touched it, someone said. He was in Fox King Palace at that time. That's right. After Hu Lai was killed by Hu Xinlan, it was Hu's elder brother who carried his body out of Fox King Palace with the power of all creations. That's right. I was there too. No one touched Hu Lai's body. Suddenly, everyone's eyes were focused on Hu Su. Hu Su was the guard of Fox King Palace who was controlled by Yixian. That's right. I carried Hu Lai's body out but I didn't touch the body. Hu Su suddenly stood up and said, "Moreover, Hu Lai's younger brother told me that he was ambushed by the Netherworld Palace's assassins on his way back to the family. He was seriously injured, which caused his cultivation to fall to the first level of the void-breaking realm. That's why his aura is so weak." Netherworld Palace's assassins? The surrounding people were shocked. Yes, I didn't hear wrongly. Hu Su nodded and said, "Elder, you can check his interspatial ring." Hearing this, the third elder's eyes flashed. He took Hu Lai's interspatial ring and took out a bounty notice from it. Hu Lai, the great-grandson of the third elder of the Hu Mei family, the fiancé of the daughter of the Winds and Cities governor, second level of the void-breaking realm. Reward: 100,000 fragmentation pills. As the third elder said this, his expression changed drastically. He then looked at the first and second elder. Normally 10,000 was enough to kill a person at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. How could it be 100,000? A person who could take out 100,000 fragmentation pills was definitely not an ordinary person. The third elder's first reaction was that it was the first elder and second elder's doing. "Third elder, why are you looking at us like that? Do you think that we were the ones who issued the bounty?" asked the second elder with a gloomy face. "You guys are so heartless." The third elder glared angrily. "What are you talking about?" The first elder coldly snorted. Although the third elder did not say it clearly, the surrounding people all believed that it was the first elder and the second elder who sent people to do it. The assassin didn't complete his mission, but he did severely injure Hu Lai. Then Hu Xinlan would deal with Hu Lai herself. In the end, she could just use the excuse of manslaughter as an excuse. After all, Hu Xinlan was currently the #1 genius of the Hu clan. In the future, she would be expected to break through to the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. This Hu Lai was Yixian's underling when he was alive. Yixian couldn't just ignore his death. At this time, the third elder suddenly felt that something was wrong. He turned around and asked, "Hu Su, why did your aura weaken?" "Elder, to be honest, when I left the clan a few days ago, I was also hunted down by the underworld's assassins. Although I was lucky enough to escape, I was severely injured. My realm fluctuated between high and low, replied Husu. What? You were also assassinated? Then why didn't you say so earlier? The third elder's eyes widened. I thought that it was a mission issued by an enemy I provoked during my training, said Husu. Humph. The third elder coldly snorted, then turned to look in the other direction. At this time Yixian's eyes flickered a few times. The Hu clan members all had charm fusion crystals in their bodies. However, before they formed a complete crystal, they would not grow into 3 tails. Yixian's Eye of the Soul might be useless against Hu Xinlan and the others at the second stage of the fragmentation realm, but it should not be a problem for the first stage of the fragmentation realm. Therefore, at this time he controlled the fox clansmen behind the first elder. Humph, Husu, I was the one who issued the mission to hunt you down. Suddenly, a person stepped forward. What he said shocked everyone present. He was the one who issued the mission to hunt down Husu? Gaoxiang, what did you say? The third elder said in disbelief. The fox clansman who walked forward was called Hu Gaoxiang. He was Hu Xinlan's older brother, but his strength was only at the first stage of the fragmentation realm. Gaoxiang, don't speak nonsense. Someone immediately shouted in a low voice. Father, the matter has been exposed. Why hide it? Great-grandfather, our Hu clan has been passed down for so long. If we are divided into 2 factions, we will definitely go downhill. Why don't we decide who is better today? Hu Gaoxiang said in a cold voice. When the surrounding people heard this, they thought that he had gone mad. However, no one would have thought that Hu Gaoxiang, who had formed more than half of the charm fusion crystal, was already under Yixian's control. In the beginning, Yixian did not know that Hu Gaoxiang was Hu Xinlan's older brother. The former only saw that Hu Gaoxiang seemed to have some status in the first elder's camp, and was coincidentally at the first stage of the fragmentation realm, so he controlled him. He did not expect that he would control someone important. Yes, don't hide it anymore. Those missions were issued by us. What about it? The Hu clan must be united in order to survive. If we continue to fight, we will definitely decline. Today we will decide who is better. The loser will take his people and leave. Good idea. The loser will take his people and leave. Someone immediately agreed. These people were all servants under Yixian's control. Through the Eye of the Soul, Yixian could directly give them orders. Now, it was up to the East Courtyard to explain. The first elder and the others did not know what drugs these people had taken. They actually directly admitted to issuing those missions. Although he did not personally issue the orders, it was inevitable that the people of the East Courtyard would do some dirty things. To put it simply, Husu had indeed encountered an assassin. However, he had killed the other party and was not seriously injured. The reason why he said that he was seriously injured was to find an excuse for his realm to fall to the first stage of the fragmentation realm. Both parties were silent for a few seconds. After thinking for a while, the first elder said slowly, "Since things have come to this, then let us end it today." "Okay, end it." The fourth elder shouted coldly. The Hu clan's East Courtyard and West Courtyard had to decide who was better today. The loser would take his people and leave. Otherwise, if they continued to fight, who knew what would happen? Chapter 1324. If we fight, both sides will suffer. Why don't we have a bet? 5 battles from the 9th level of the fulfillment realm to the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. Best of 5. And the loser leaves immediately. The first elder suddenly suggested. This suggestion was very fair. Alright, best of 5, but there's one condition. Those under the 2nd level of the fragmentation realm must not be over 40 years old. The third elder immediately agreed. Although Hu Xinlan was the number 1 genius of the Hu clan, she was only 18 years old. Even if she was about to break through to the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm, there was still someone from the West Campus who could defeat her. Since both sides agreed, they had to decide on the participants. The 9th level of the fulfillment realm, the 1st level of the fragmentation realm, the 2nd level of the fragmentation realm, the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm, and the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. However, the West Campus had already won half of the battles before they started, because Yixian was secretly helping them. The 9th level of the fulfillment realm and the 1st level of the fragmentation realm. No matter who the East Campus sends, they will lose these 2 battles. Yixian's eyes flashed. There was no way the West Campus would lose these 2 battles. Then, the West Campus only needed to win one of the next 3 battles to win the battle. At the same time, the order of the battles between the 5 realms was not fixed. In the end, they concluded that the first battle would be between the 2nd level of the Fragmentation Realm, followed by the 3rd level of the Fragmentation Realm, the 9th level of the Fulfillment Realm, the 4th level of the Fragmentation Realm, and the 1st level of the Fragmentation Realm. Xiangming, you're up for this battle. The first elder called out. Hu Xiangming was his great-grandson. Although his talent was not high, and he was already 30 years old, his strength was much stronger than Hu Xinlan's. Hu Gaofei. After a short discussion, the 3rd and 4th elders also decided on a person. Originally, both sides were going to write down the name of the person who would fight on the paper. However, the first elder was very confident in his great-grandson, so he was at a disadvantage. Hu Xiangming was almost invincible among the 2nd level of the Fragmentation Realm in the Hu clan. Although Hu Gaofei was 3 years older than him, he was slightly weaker than Hu Xiangming. However, Hu Gaofei was the only one who would fight this battle because the 2nd level of the Fragmentation Realm could not be older than 40 years old. Hu Gaofei was only 33 years old. Moreover, he was the strongest person in the 2nd stage of the Fragmentation Realm in the Western Campus. Hu Xiangming and Hu Gaofei walked out one after another. The 2 of them had fought before, but that was 3 months ago. It was unknown if Hu Xiangming was more powerful. These 5 matches are extremely important, said the 3rd elder in a low voice. Gaofei, you have to win them. Yes, even if Gaofei dies, we must win this battle, Hu Gaofei said resolutely. When Hu Xiangming heard this, he snorted in displeasure. Humph, shameless boasting. At this moment, the 1st elder thought of a question and asked, is this battle a life and death battle? We only care about victory and defeat, not about life and death. The 3rd elder replied. To put it simply, he could kill. Begin. Under the order of the 1st elder, Hu Xiangming and Hu Gaofei's figures flashed. In the blink of an eye, they began to fight. Both of them were elites of the Fox clan, but because they were from the same clan, their mental attacks had no effect on each other. What they competed in was combat strength. Outside the arena, everyone held their breaths and watched this battle with rapt attention. This battle was extremely important because if they were the first to win, their morale would skyrocket, which would be helpful in the following battles. At this moment, Yixian was also watching carefully, wondering if he should use some tricks on Hu Xiangming, such as his mind's eye. Ordinary soul attacks could not hurt the Fox clan, but Yixian's mind's eye was extremely powerful. Although he could not control it, it was enough to affect Hu Xiangming's mind. Forget it, I'll not interfere. After thinking for a moment, Yixian decided to give up, because there were 2 more matches that he was sure to win, so he did not need to worry. Besides, even if the West Campus lost, it would not affect his investigation. After all, Hu Tai Hu Lai's father was from the West Campus. The battle continued, and the sounds of fighting continued. Those with discerning eyes could see that the East Campus had the upper hand, and Hu Gaofei from the West Campus was being suppressed. No, this battle is extremely important. Even if I die, I must win. Hu Gaofei's face was gloomy, and he was already prepared to die. Although his strength was slightly weaker than his opponent, he could still hurt his opponent. Not long after, both of them were covered in wounds. Every time they moved, blood would spurt out, and it was a horrible sight. However, no one from either side stopped them. Everyone was aware of the importance of this battle. The East Campus had already issued a reward mission. If there was no winner today, then the next battle would be a full-scale battle, and there would be more casualties. Swish! At this moment, a crisp sound was suddenly heard, and a head was thrown into the air. Who was it? Everyone looked and found that the head was from the West Campus, Hu Gaofei's. The West Campus lost the first battle. At the same time, Hu Gaofei was also killed by Hu Xiangming. Gaofei. A woman from the Fox clan cried bitterly. She was Hu Gaofei's mother, and she could not stay calm after seeing her son killed. The East Campus has won this battle, said the first elder with a smile on his face. Next, the East Campus only needed to win 2 more battles, and then the West Campus would be kicked out. The people from the West Campus looked gloomy. The next battle was between the 3rd stage of the Fragmentation Realm. Uncle Xingping, you're up for this battle. The third elder shouted. Okay. An old man walked out. Hu Xingping was the strongest third stage of the fragmentation realm in the West Campus. He was more than 100 years old, and his seniority was even higher than the third elder. He was expected to break through to the fourth stage of the fragmentation realm in this lifetime. At the same time, he had also condensed a complete charm fusion crystal and grown 3 tails. Previously, both sides had set a rule that the participants of the third stage of the fragmentation realm, the first stage of the fragmentation realm, and the 9th stage of the fulfillment realm could not be older than 40 years old. However, this battle was between the third stage of the fragmentation realm, so there was no restriction. It's really him. Hu Jiashir, you're up. The first elder also shouted. The second battle soon began. These two people were both over 100 years old, and their strength was at the peak of the third stage of the fragmentation realm, so the battle was very intense. The East Campus won the first battle, so the morale of the East Campus was high. Although the West Campus lost, they felt that they must win a battle, so their morale was not low. At first, Yixian did not care whether he helped or not. After all, this had nothing to do with him. However, Hu Lai was his subordinate before he died, so he felt that he should help. Mind's Eye. Chapter 1325. There were 3 effects of the Eye of the Mind. One was to directly cause damage to the soul like the burning eye. The second was an illusion attack like the Eye of Illusion, which made the opponent fall into an illusion. The third was the Eye of Control, which controlled the opponent. However, the opponent had condensed a charm fusion crystal, and his realm was higher than Yixian, so he could only use soul attacks or illusion attacks. What? The East institutions Hu Jiashir's heart trembled, and he thought to himself, this old man's soul attack can actually affect me? He thought that it was the West institutions Hu Xingping who used a soul attack on him, because if it was anyone else, the East institutions people would discover and stop them. But what he didn't know was that the opponent who used the soul attack wasn't the West institutions fighter, but Yixian outside the arena. Fortunately, Yixian was only at the 2nd level of the fragmentation realm, and he also had a charm fusion crystal in his body, so he was naturally immune to soul attacks. However, as time passed, something happened to him. Eye of the Mind. Eye of the Mind. When Yixian used the Eye of the Mind for the 5th time, Hu Jiashir's movements obviously slowed down. Good chance. Hu Xingping's eyes lit up as he caught a flaw in the opponent, and then directly attacked. Puff. Although Hu Jiashir dodged the fatal sword, the opponent's sword missed between his 2 chests. Kacha. A crisp sound was heard, and the charm fusion crystal in Hu Jiashir's body shattered. Hu Jiashir's realm also fell instantly, and his physique also shrank. Not good. The first elder and the others' expressions changed, and just as they were about to speak, they heard another crisp sound. A head was thrown up. Dead. Good, well done. The third elder praised repeatedly. The East institution won the first battle. The West institution won the second battle. Now it was a tie. Damn it. The first elder cursed angrily. It would be fine if it was a 1st or 2nd level fragmentation realm expert, but now the one who died was a 3rd level fragmentation realm expert. This was a heavy blow to the East institution. However, he was already dead, so it was useless to argue. The next 3rd battle was a battle between 9th level fulfillment realm experts. There were thousands of 9th level fragmentation realm experts in the Hu family, so this battle naturally had to choose the older ones. After all, their combat power would be stronger than the younger ones. Soon both sides sent the strongest experts of this level again. Unfortunately, there was no suspense in this battle. Eye of the Mind. Ding, control successful. Chapter 1326. Demon Fox Flash. This is the secret technique of the Fox clan, and the 2nd elder has mastered it. The 3rd elder was shocked. Even the Hu clan's patriarch had not mastered this technique, but the 3rd elder had mastered it. Otherwise, the West Campus would have won this battle. This time they had suffered a great loss. Not only did they lose this battle, but they also lost a 4th tier of the void-breaking realm. It was a double whammy. If both sides were to fight now, the West Campus would suffer a terrible fate. There were 3 4th tier of the void-breaking realm in the West Campus, and the 3rd was Hu Lai's father, Hu Tai. However, Hu Tai was not in the Hu clan, so only the 3rd elder was left. Haha, now it's 2 against 2. The first elder could not help but laugh when he saw the third elder's expression. Although the fourth elder who died was related to him by blood, the two clans had already reached this point. So what if one of them died? In fact, the first elder wanted to start the battle right now, but if he did so, his side would probably lose a lot of people. It was not worth it. So, he decided to see how the fifth battle would turn out. The fifth battle was a battle between first tier of the Voidbreaking realm. If the East Campus won, then the battle would be over. If they lost, then they would think about it. Elder, let me do it. Suddenly, a young human walked out from the west courtyard. The third elder nodded slightly when he saw him. This human was not a member of the Hu clan, but he married a woman from the Hu clan. This time, he brought his wife to visit family, but he did not expect to encounter a life-and-death situation. Wenxuan, you go? The first elder turned around and said. Hu Wenxuan was a genius of the Hu clan. He had already condensed a complete charm fusion crystal, and his strength was at the top of the first tier of the Voidbreaking realm. He was about to break through to the second tier of the Voidbreaking realm. This fifth battle was related to the fate of both sides. It was very important. Everyone held their breaths and watched as Hu Wenxuan and the young human walked out. Although the young human was not a member of the Hu clan, he was related to the Hu clan, so the East Campus did not stop him. Human, you will die under my sword, Hu Wenxuan said coldly. Shameless boasting. The young human did not say anything and directly rushed out with his sword. At the same time, Yixian also used his mind's eye. Ding! Control successful. In an instant, Hu Wenxuan was controlled by Yixian and delivered his head to the human youth. Hiss! A crisp sound entered everyone's ears. In the blink of an eye, Hu Wenxuan's head was chopped off by the human youth. The entire place was deathly silent. How is this possible? The first elder couldn't believe it. Hu Wenxuan was already at the peak of the first tier of the fragmentation realm. Even if his opponent was at the same level, he couldn't have been killed instantly, right? He must have been mistaken. However, this scene fell into the eyes of over 1,000 people. Couldn't be fake. Even the people from the West Campus did not expect that the human youth could kill his opponent in seconds and win the fifth round. Including the previous ones, the West Campus had already won 3 times, which meant that they were the final winners of this gambling battle. Seeing this, the first elder reacted quickly. He did not think about how the young man could kill his opponent in seconds. Instead, he said directly, now our West District has won 3 victories. First elder, shouldn't you leave? You! The first elder's expression changed drastically. He was stunned speechless. Even he did not know how Hu Wenxuan died. This gambling battle was lost without knowing how, so the people from the East District were unwilling to accept it. First elder, what should we do? The second elder, who had just fought a battle, asked in a low voice. Both sides had an agreement before. The winner of the best of 5 rounds would leave the Hu clan and establish their own clan. Now that the East District had lost, it was the East District's turn to leave. However, the first elder did not want to leave just like that. He had worked hard for the Hu clan for so many years. How could he just leave like that? Seeing the hesitation on the other side's face, the third elder suddenly had an ominous feeling in his heart. Although they won the gambling battle, the West District would be in trouble if the first elder and the second elder went back on their word. The 2 opponents were at the 4th tier of the fragmentation realm, and he was the only one in the West District. If they fought, the West District would definitely lose. First elder, could it be that you can't afford to lose? When the third elder's voice rang out, everyone's face darkened. For a moment the atmosphere became strange. For the sake of my clansmen, I have to be a villain for once. After the first elder finished speaking, he shouted, all fragmentation realm martial artists, get ready to fight. Immediately, the hundreds of fragmentation realm martial artists behind him were stunned for a moment. Then all of them drew their weapons. At the same time, the group of martial artists from the West District also began to be on guard. First elder, you really can't let it go. The third elder snorted coldly. Although they won the gambling battle, they lost their men. At this moment, the third elder was also asking himself whether he should fight this battle or not. If he fought, he might be completely annihilated. If he did not fight, they would have to leave the Hu clan and establish their own clan. You can leave. the first elder replied. He did not want to fight to the death with the other side. After all, they were from the same clan. The people from the West District suddenly fell silent. When the fourth elder died, they had already guessed that this might be the outcome. Now it had really happened. The third elder was still hesitating. He did not want to fight with the other side, but he was angry. They had won the gambling battle, but they had to leave. What should we do, elder? An elder walked forward and asked in a low voice. Gather the people. The third elder finally made the decision. Hearing this, the people from the East District also breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that there was no need for a battle. Elder, this. Many people from the West District were also dissatisfied, but they also knew the consequences of a battle between the two sides. Both sides would only suffer. At the same time, they might be completely annihilated. In desperation, the people from the West District also went back to pack their things and then organized their people to leave together. They were all very busy and did not have time to pay attention to Yi Xian. So this is the outcome. At this time, Yi Xian was thinking about a problem. He was wondering if he should make a move because his strength was not weaker than the three elders. Once he used his ultimate move, the East District would probably be completely annihilated. However, just as he was hesitating, a strong aura suddenly swept toward the Hu clan. Fourth level of the fragmentation realm? The expressions of the remaining three elders changed. The third elder's eyes lit up. He whispered, "Could it be that Hu Tai is back?" Hu Tai was the father of the deceased Hu Lai. He was at the fourth level of the fragmentation realm. If he was back, the West District might be able to fight. Chapter 1327. No, this isn't Hu Tai's aura. The third elder immediately reacted. Hu Tai was his grandson, so he was very familiar with him. However, this aura of the fourth stage of the fragmentation realm was very unfamiliar. It wasn't Hu Tai. Who was it? Everyone turned their heads and saw a black figure dashing over. It was a long-haired young man dressed in black. He looked ordinary, but his strength was at the fourth stage of the fragmentation realm. "Sir, may I ask who you are?" The first elder stepped forward and cupped his fists. The black-robed young man did not say anything. He took out a sheepskin scroll from his interspatial ring and unfolded it. "Is this little fox from your Hu clan?" the black-robed young man asked. Everyone present looked at it and shook their heads. There were a few figures drawn on the sheepskin scroll. A human, a fox girl, a tree, and a sword. It was very strange. However, Yi Xian, who was hiding in the crowd, immediately trembled when he saw the painting. "Looking for me?" Yi Xian's eyes widened. He immediately scanned with the eye of revelation and found that there was no faith crystal in the black-robed young man's head. However, there was a two-finger-sized scorpion in the black-robed young man's arms. Could it be that the underworld's assassin is here on the orders of the Xianming duo? Yi Xian thought again. However, in the next moment, he realized that the Xianming duo did not seem to know about the demon tree battle soldier. Then where did this black-robed young man come from? The first clan elder glanced around and found that the surrounding people were all at a loss. He said, "Your Excellency, the portrait in your hand, none of us have seen it before. This little fox is at the second stage of the fragmentation realm. Call out all the women at the second stage of the fragmentation realm," the black-robed young man said in a commanding tone. His tone made everyone present very unhappy. Wasn't he just at the fourth stage of the fragmentation realm? What was he so arrogant for? "Sir, aren't you overestimating yourself?" The first elder snorted coldly. "In that case, I'll give you a gift." The black-robed young man's eyes flashed. He waved his right hand and threw out a ray of black light. This ray of black light was extremely fast and directly rushed into the East Courtyard's camp. Following that, screams of agony could be heard. "What?" Everyone was shocked. They only saw a black shadow pass by, but they didn't see what it was. However, Yi Xian saw it clearly. "That is..." Yi Xian widened his eyes. He saw that the black-clothed youth had thrown out the scorpion in his arms. However, he also saw a very familiar pattern on the black scorpion. Devouring beast. That black scorpion is a devouring beast. Yi Xian was extremely shocked. After such a long time, he had finally encountered a devouring beast. This was worth 1 devouring point. At the same time, he guessed the identity of the black-clothed young man. This black-clothed youth was most likely the leader of the Cthulhuism Society. At first, Yi Xian thought that the Cthulhuism cult leader was at most at the 3rd stage of the fragmentation realm. He didn't expect him to be at the 4th stage. However, this was nothing. After all, Yi Xian had also broken through now. Compared to the Cthulhuism Society leader, Yi Xian was more interested in capturing the Devourer beast. At that moment, the devouring beast was shuttling back and forth among the warriors from the East Branch. Puff, 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 puff. A series of muffled sounds reverberated in the air. This little black scorpion easily broke through the fragmentation realm warriors' defenses, running amok inside their bodies, devouring their flesh and blood. Quickly spread out. The first elder urged. In the blink of an eye, 3 to 4 people fell to the ground. Moreover, all of them were 2nd stage fragmentation realm warriors, and there was even a 3rd stage fragmentation realm warrior among them. At this time, the black shadow leaped out from another person's body, charging towards the person closest to him. Not good. The first elder's face tightened. This black shadow's target was actually his son. Humph. The black-clothed youth in the air finally made his move. This little scorpion was something he had spent a lot of effort to tame. It was because of this little scorpion that he had delayed his return to the Cthulhuism Society. Sir, you dare to behave atrociously in my Hu family's territory? You're courting death. The second elder gripped his battle knife tightly and charged forward. He who had mastered the demon fox flash was the strongest among the Hu family members, thus he did not put Shi Juin in his eyes. However, contrary to everyone's expectations, Shi Juin turned into a streak of light, brushing past the second elder's body. In the next second, the second elder was split into 2 halves, falling to the ground. Instant kill. How is this possible? Everyone was dumbfounded, including Yi Xian. Wasn't this Shi Juin's strength a little too terrifying? He actually killed an opponent at the same level as him in a split second? Didn't this mean that he had the ability to jump ranks and challenge opponents? Not good. This Cthulhuism Society leader is actually so strong. If I don't use my ultimate move, I won't be able to defeat him. Yi Xian couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. However, he wasn't alone. There were still 3 helpers in the plantation space. Thinking of this, he left quietly, heading towards the East Courtyard's camp. Puff, puff, puff. A storm of blood broke out in the East Courtyard's camp. By the time the second elder died, more than a dozen people had died unnatural deaths. Attack! The first elder didn't dare to be negligent, shouting at the top of his lungs. This black-robed young man's strength had exceeded their expectations. If they didn't go all out, the Hu family would be annihilated today. The West Courtyard's 3rd elder was also hesitating in his heart, wondering if he should help or not. However, when he thought of the first elder's actions, he restrained himself. The first elder had clearly lost, yet he reneged on his debt and chased them away. Now that he was in trouble, why should he help? There were even some people who were gloating over the situation. This was karma. At this time, Yi Xian had already sneaked into the East Courtyard's camp. That little black scorpion killed people by drilling into their bodies and devouring their organs. It was hard for ordinary people to find it, and even if they found it, they wouldn't be able to keep up with its speed. However, Yi Xian had the eye of revelation, so he could pinpoint the little black scorpion's location. Puff! At this time, the little black scorpion suddenly flew out from a person's body, and its next target was precisely Yi Xian. Haha! You're walking right into the trap. Yi Xian laughed loudly. Others might not have been able to react in time, but he could. He grabbed the little black scorpion with his right hand. Let's see how you're going to escape, Devourer beast. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. At the same time, when he grabbed the little black scorpion, a system notification sounded. Ding! The host has captured the Devourer beast. Would you like to put the Devourer beast into the plantation space to cultivate it? The system notification sounded. What? Yi Xian was shocked. Chapter 1328. Without further ado, Yi Xian checked the benefits of cultivating this devouring beast. An ordinary devouring beast was worth 1 devouring point, but if this devouring beast was nurtured to the 2nd order, it would be worth 2 devouring points. Other than that, this devouring beast could also reproduce, but there was a prerequisite. The devouring beasts had to be male and female, and they had to be of the same species. One was a snake and the other was a scorpion, although there was a beast tribe called the scorpion snake. This devouring beast in my hand is already at 80% experience points of the first order. If it matures to the second order, it will be worth 2 devouring points. Yixian agreed to nurture this devouring beast. This devouring beast nurturing function only appeared after the planting space appeared. The mini black scorpion was sent into a cage in a corner of the planting space. This cage was specially used by the system to imprison devouring beasts. As for the devouring beast's growth, it was quite simple. That was to absorb origin energy. Of course, if there was a large number of corpses, its growth would be faster. This time Yixian had profited greatly. When this mini black scorpion matured to the second order, he would be able to obtain 2 devouring points. Bastard! The black-robed young man Shi Jiuyin roared in anger. That mini black scorpion was something he had tamed with great difficulty, but now it was sent to God knows where by Yixian. Naturally, he was enraged. At the same time, he did not expect that the mini black scorpion, which even a third stage of the fragmentation realm expert could not capture, would be captured by Yixian, a second stage of the fragmentation realm expert. Die for me! Shi Jiuyin was enraged. He turned into a streak of black light and shot towards Yixian. Selah! 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 Crisp sounds rang out. Crisp sounds rang out one after another. Those martial practitioners at the third level of the fragmentation realm who had rushed up together with the first elder had all died in an instant. Even the first elder was not spared. With the eye of revelation, Yixian saw clearly what had killed so many people. It was a thin black whip. This Cthulhuism cult leader is indeed from the Scorpion tribe, but he cut off his own tail and made it into a weapon. Yixian immediately understood. But for now he should deal with Shi Jiuyin first. It seems if I don't show my true strength, I'm afraid I will die in your hands. A light glimmered in his eyes. He summoned Wei Zhentian and the old tree. Curtain of darkness. Storm of swords blades. And attacked. Shi Jiuyin, Huang and Yixian. At the same time Yixian's eyes flashed. He issued a death order to Shi Jiuyin, while he himself fled into the darkness. Oh! The black whip in Shi Jiuyin's hand danced crazily, each strike accurately sending a person's head flying. But after he finished cleaning up, he discovered that Yixian had disappeared. It was dark all around. Seeing this, the third elder of the west courtyard hurriedly retreated with his people, fearing that they would be affected. Punk, so it's you. Come out here. Shi Jiuyin roared as he blocked the storm of swords. Wei Zhentian and the old tree had exposed Yixian's identity. Therefore Shi Jiuyin knew that Yixian was the culprit who killed his father and annihilated the Cthulhuism cult he had built. It seemed like he had found the right place. At this time Yixian, who had disappeared into the darkness, used the dark shadow steps to appear on the other side. There were several corpses here. I'll take them. Without hesitation, Yixian collected the first elder, second elder, and several third stage of the fragmentation realm experts' corpses. Ding! Wei Zhentian broke through. Current cultivation is at third stage of the fragmentation realm. Ding! Host broke through. Current cultivation is at third stage of the fragmentation realm. The 2 system notifications gave Yixian the confidence to kill Shi Jiuyin. Erupt with killing intent. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. Yixian slashed his sword at Shi Jiuyin's back. Swish swish. A golden flame dragon whistled out, illuminating the surroundings. Found you. Shi Jiuyin, who was inside the storm of swords, suddenly turned around. The long whip in his hand straightened, turning into a single sword. Devil-piercing stab. Shi Jiuyin gathered his true qi and stabbed out with his right hand. A powerful force swept out, splitting the golden flame dragon into 2 heads. However, this move was merely Yixian's bait. Eye of assassination. Taking advantage of the moment Shi Jiuyin attacked, Yixian's eyes glimmered. He disappeared in the blink of an eye, reappearing behind Shi Jiuyin. Erupt with killing intent. Devil-piercing stab. The scarlet flame sword in Yixian's hand pierced into Shi Jiuyin's head. Chaotic true qi minced Shi Jiuyin's brain. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. Shi Jiuyin was the fiend god cult's leader, but he was an arrogant person who did not put Yixian in his eyes. Hence he was killed by Yixian's trump card. In truth, Yixian did not need to use the death pursuit order and eye of assassination. Just Wei Zhentian's storm of swords was more than enough to deal with Shi Juyin. However, Yixian played his trump card just in case. Now the fiend god cult was completely annihilated. Shi Juyin had killed the two elders, and Yixian had killed Shi Juyin in a split second. His strength was undeniable. Even if the entire Hu family joined forces, they were still no match for the storm of swords. Hence, Yixian had no reason to be afraid of others. Let me see what you, the fiend god cult's leader, have obtained. Yixian put away Shi Juin's spatial ring and checked its contents. Inside the spatial ring, there were large amounts of faith crystals and precious treasures. Other than that, there was also a fiend god's secret record. This fiend god's secret record was most likely the fiend god's inheritance. Inside, it recorded how to build the fiend god's altar and statue, as well as the faith crystals. Other than that, it was also a cultivation technique. Anyone who cultivated the fiend god's secret record would become the fiend god's most loyal apostle. That was why there was no faith crystal inside Shi Juin's head. The fiend god cult's faith crystal is condensed from the fiend god cult's leader's true qi. Yixian immediately understood. Because the fiend god cult's leader cultivated the fiend god's secret record, only he could condense the faith crystal with his true qi. Others couldn't. In short, the fiend god cult's leader Shi Juin was here to give Yixian some benefits. Not only did he give Shi Juin a devouring beast, but there was also a large amount of faith crystals. As for the fiend god's secret record, Yixian had only copied it down. He had no intention of cultivating it. After all, if he cultivated it, he would be controlled by the fiend god. Chapter 1329. The people from the west courtyard were also shocked when they saw the bloodstains on the ground. Then where's the man in black? The third elder couldn't help but ask. I killed him and kept his body, Yixian answered casually. The bodies of third or fourth stage fragmentation realm martial artists could be given to the heavenly treasure tree, or the mini black scorpion to grow. So Yixian naturally wouldn't waste them. Killed. The third elder swallowed his saliva. That black-clothed youth had killed 2 experts at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm in a row, but now he died at the hands of Yixian. In that case, wouldn't Yixian's strength be even stronger? Although Yixian only gave off the aura of a 3rd-stage fragmentation realm martial artist, the third elder and the others believed that Yixian was definitely not a 3rd-stage fragmentation realm martial artist. He might be a 5th or even 6th-stage fragmentation realm martial artist. Otherwise, how could he be so ridiculously strong? Sir, you are? The third elder asked in shock. I'm friends with Hu Lai, Yixian answered casually. Hu Lai. Hearing this, the third elder couldn't help but look at the corpse that was gradually turning cold. It was unbelievable that Hu Lai was acquainted with such a powerful martial artist. Just now, he was still worried that the west courtyard would be affected. He didn't expect that it would be resolved now. The 2 elders and a few fragmentation realm martial artists in the east courtyard were all dead, so they couldn't fight against the west courtyard anymore. Next, they could merge the east courtyard with the west courtyard. In the future, the Hu family would still be the Hu family, except that a few leaders had died. Hu Lai brought me to his father, Yixian added. Hu Tai isn't in the Hu family now. He's been out for some time and hasn't returned yet. It seems that he went to the Myriad Treasure Alliance in the east, the third elder replied with a frown. Originally, he wouldn't tell others about his grandson's whereabouts, but Yixian had resolved the Hu family's crisis, so there shouldn't be any problem. All right, thank you very much. Yixian cupped his fists at the third elder, then took out a book from his Qian Kuan ring and threw it over. While I was training, I happened to obtain the Heart Sutra of Charm. I'll give it to you today. When they heard Yixian's words, everyone was shocked. Heart Sutra of Charm. It was actually the Heart Sutra of Charm. The third elder was so shocked that he was speechless. Charm Fusion Crystal, Charm Heart Sutra, Eyes of Charm. As long as he successfully cultivated all 3, he would be able to grow 9 tails. Every time there was a change, there was a chance that the bloodline in his body could be activated. The Hu clan originally only had 2. And now that they had obtained the missing third, the Hu clan would become even more powerful in the future. Thank you, Your Excellency. The third elder hurriedly expressed his gratitude. There's no need to thank me. If I meet your grandson next, I might kill him. After Yi Xian said this in his heart, he quietly left. Now that he knew Hu Tai's whereabouts, he had to rush over to the Thousand Treasure Alliance to take a look. The Thousand Treasure Alliance was in the map he obtained. It was said that the Thousand Treasure Alliance was once an ancient battlefield, so some people formed a treasure hunting team there. Over time it developed into a force. Luo Luo had already obtained the method to cultivate the Eyes of Charm. Now she only needed time to cultivate the Eyes of Charm. The Eyes of Charm could not only enhance the ability of charm, but also enhance the effect of the Eyes of Charm. In addition, it could also make Luo Luo change her appearance, stimulating the heavenly fox bloodline in her body, and increasing the density of the bloodline. Of course, Yi Xian's beast god bloodline could also be upgraded. He just didn't know when he would be able to cultivate the Eyes of Charm. A day after Yi Xian left the Hu clan and rushed to the Thousand Treasure Alliance, Luo Luo finally sent news. "Young master, let me out," Luo Luo hurriedly said. When Yi Xian heard this, he quickly let Luo Luo out. At this time he was in the depths of a mountain, preparing to cross it. "Young master, I've already cultivated the Eyes of Charm to the final level. I'll be able to complete it soon, but I need to do it outside," Luo Luo explained. Although there was Yuan Qi of heaven and earth in the planting space, it was an independent space that was created. It was fundamentally different from the Greater Thousand Worlds, so Yi Xian didn't think too much about it. "Alright, then continue. I'll protect you." Yi Xian nodded and released Wei Zhentian and the old tree to protect her. Due to Yi Xian's increase in cultivation, the old tree quickly broke through to the third stage of the fragmentation realm. With him and Wei Zhentian patrolling the surroundings and Yi Xian's personal bodyguard, Luo Luo wouldn't be in danger. However, this was the territory of the Thousand Treasure Alliance, so there might be people coming to search for treasures. Although Yi Xian had only left the Hu family for a day, his shadow steps was extremely fast. It was equivalent to 4 or 5 days for other people. Luo Luo continued to cultivate. The surrounding Yuan Qi of heaven and earth madly gathered toward the mountain. Its effect was no less than the spirit gathering formation. When Luo Luo breaks through this time, she'll be able to evolve into a 9-tailed beast. At that time, my beast god bloodline might mutate as well. Yi Xian was very curious. He just didn't know how long it would take for Luo Luo to mutate this time. Yi Xian stayed by Luo Luo's side and observed the changes in her body. After about half an hour, Luo Luo's left eye turned pink. This wasn't because she was using her charm, but because she had successfully cultivated the Eyes of Charm. Next it was her right eye. However, right at that moment, a group of people nearby noticed the change in the surroundings. There were 3 people in this group. They were dressed the same, with the word treasure embroidered on their backs. The leader was in the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm, while the other 2 were in the 3rd stage of the fragmentation realm. They were quite strong. "Senior brother, do you feel that the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth here is a little strange?" A young man with small eyes asked. "Yes, the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth here seems to be moving to the west." The leader nodded. "Who knows, another treasure might have appeared. Last month, I heard that a Tier 5 heaven-piercing artifact was unearthed in this area. Although it is a damaged item, it is still much stronger than a Tier 4 heaven-piercing artifact," another person said, his eyes shining. A 5th-grade divine weapon was a Nirvana realm treasure. It was almost impossible to find such a thing in this area. "Let's go and take a look." The leader led the 2 people in the direction where the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth gathered. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly rushed toward them. "Who is it?" The leader paused and shouted in a low voice. The newcomer was a bald old man in dark green clothes. He was the old tree who was patrolling this area. Chapter 1330. "Young man, this is a dead end." Old tree cut straight to the chase. The 3 of them frowned when they heard this. The young man in the lead asked in surprise, "Who are you? Why are you asking us to take a detour?" "Just take a detour. Young man, don't talk too much." Old tree snorted. "Old man, I don't know where you came from. Get out of the way or don't blame me for being rude." The small-eyed young man scolded angrily. "You little brat, how dare you shoot your mouth off? You're asking for a beating." Old tree's bad temper instantly showed and he attacked. "You're asking for it." The small-eyed young man was also very angry. and he went up to meet him. However, what shocked the other two was that the small-eyed young man was actually sent flying by the bald old man's slap. Junior brother Lin. The young man in the lead widened his eyes and drew his long sword. Old man, you attacked first, so don't blame us for being ruthless. The two of them also rushed out in an instant. One of them was at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm, and the other two were at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. This team strength was not bad. Although Old Tree was only at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm, he was no ordinary person. The fragmentation realm mainly relied on one's physique. At the same level, the physique of a heaven-reaching beast was much stronger than that of a human. Coupled with the enhancement of the beast god's bloodline, Old Tree was not afraid of these 3 people at all. So what if it was 1 against 3? Boom! 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 In an instant, the 4 of them wrestled together. Old Tree fought with the 3 of them with his hard iron fists and actually gained the upper hand. You 3 brats, I'll give you another piece of advice. Hurry up and get out of here or don't blame me. Old Tree's voice, full of vicissitudes, fell into the ears of the 3 people. Get out of here, you mother****. The small-eyed young man, who was sent flying by the punch, was furious and began to curse. You're the ones who asked for it, so don't blame me. Old Tree's eyes suddenly flashed. If it was before in the primitive world of the wood spirit, if someone dared to provoke him, he would naturally attack. However, Yixian was his master now, so it was best to ask Yixian about this matter. However, just a moment ago, Yixian had already agreed to let Old Shu settle this matter himself. After obtaining Yixian's consent, Old Shu's body suddenly expanded. His entire body expanded by several times as he transformed into a devil tree battle soldier. Old Shu in his human form was already stronger than them. Now that he was in his original form, wouldn't he be able to beat them into minced meat with a single punch? Call. Oh! A beam of golden light soared into the sky and then exploded. Wei Zhentian, Old Tree, who had transformed into his original form, was 100% confident that he could deal with these 3 people. Now that Wei Zhentian had come to help, the other party couldn't escape. At this time, Yixian, who was guarding beside Luo Luo, was also looking into the distance. Since they're fellow disciples, they should be the treasure-seeking sect of the Myriad Treasures Alliance. Yixian thought to himself. The Myriad Treasures Alliance was composed of 2 major forces. One was called Myriad Treasures City, and the other was called the Treasure-Seeking Sect. The people of these 2 forces were always on the move, looking for something unusual in this area, because there might be treasures. However, Luo Luo was at a critical time now, so she couldn't be disturbed. Whoever dared to trespass would die. With the Eye of Revelation, Yixian could watch the whole battle. In less than 3 seconds, the 3 disciples of the treasure-seeking sect were killed by Old Tree and Wei Zhentian. However, the signal just now wasn't intercepted, so many people would gather soon. Whoever comes will die. Yixian's eyes flickered. After the 3 disciples of the treasure-seeking sect died, Wei Zhentian returned with their corpses. Yixian checked the 3 people's interspatial rings. Sure enough, the 3 of them were disciples of the treasure-seeking sect. Is this the treasure-seeking ruler of the treasure-seeking sect? At this time, Yixian suddenly took out a strange object. This object was specially used by the Myriad Treasures Alliance to find treasures. Yixian took it out and saw that the arrowhead of the treasure-seeking ruler was spinning crazily. This meant that this was the place where the treasure was unearthed. Luo Luo's situation is very similar to when a treasure is unearthed. Yixian didn't think too much and put away the treasure-seeking ruler. Old Tree Wei Zhentian continued patrolling. Maybe more people will come. Yixian said in his mind. Okay. The signal just now didn't cover a large area, but there were people from the treasure-seeking sect in Myriad Treasure City in the vicinity, so they all gathered. There were 8 people at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm, and the rest were at least at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. This wasn't the main point. The main point was that there were 2 5th-level fragmentation realm experts. At this time, they had already gathered outside Luo Luo's seclusion site. Young master, there are many people gathered outside. Old Tree reported. During this time, he had already formed a giant wood protection barrier. With the recovery ability of the Divine Tree of Life's bloodline, This giant wood protection barrier's defensive ability was extremely strong. It couldn't be broken by ordinary people. As long as the two 5th level fragmentation realm experts didn't attack, it wouldn't be a problem to block the others. At this time, two large groups had gathered outside the giant wood protection barrier. Both groups happened to have a 5th level fragmentation realm expert. Captain Chun, I didn't expect you to be here too. A black-clad old man looked at the other side not far away. On the other side, the leader of the brawny men grinned and said, Elder Zhua, you're here too. No need to be so polite. The black-clad old man waved his hand and said, What do you think of this guardian formation? It's also my first time seeing it, but this guardian formation is constantly growing. We'll just attack it directly. The brawny man replied. Then what do you think will be inside? The black-clad old man continued to ask. At this time someone suddenly interrupted. I came to this mountain an hour ago. There was no such thing at that time. So it just appeared. The brawny man knocked his head and said, Is the person who sent the signal here? As soon as he finished speaking, no one answered. Did they enter before this guardian formation was formed? The brawny man muttered, turned his head and said, Elder Zhua, let's attack together. We'll split the spoils equally after this. No problem. The black-clad old man agreed. He was from the treasure-seeking sect, and this brawny man was from Myriad Treasure City. The two sides often cooperated, so they were already used to it. Chapter 1331. Someone's here. The treasure-seeking sect and Million Treasure Cities teams all looked over. This white-clothed youth was at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. He was Yixian. My sister is breaking through inside. I'll give you a chance to scram. Yixian's eyes flickered. He was now at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. Even facing two 5th level fragmentation realm martial artists was a piece of cake. Yes, in his eyes there were only two 5th level fragmentation realm martial artists. Because the others were already under his control one by one. His words were meant for these two people. Although he was not afraid of them, he was afraid that the sound of battle would disturb Luoluo. Kid, you're only at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. How dare you speak so arrogantly? The brawny man glared. The black-clothed old man continued. You came out of the formation. Did you set up this formation? I told you my sister is breaking through inside. Yixian was not prepared to answer this question. His face darkened. How can a breakthrough trigger such a huge amount of heaven and earth origin energy? This is clearly a sign that something is about to happen to a treasure. Kid, you better retreat quickly or else. The black-clothed old man's eyes flickered. His eyes were suddenly filled with killing intent. Or else what? Yixian asked subconsciously. Or else don't blame me. Before the black-clothed old man could finish speaking, several 4th level fragmentation realm martial practitioners behind him suddenly attacked him. Bang! 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 For muffled sounds rang out and fell into everyone's ears. Everyone in the brawny man's team turned to look and saw the black-clothed old man's body suddenly falling from the sky. The wound on his back was so deep that the bone could be seen, and his heart was pierced through. A 5th level fragmentation realm martial artist died just like that. What happened? The brawny man was shocked. The black-clothed old man belonged to the treasure-seeking sect. The people behind him were also disciples of the treasure-seeking sect. But why did these disciples suddenly attack and kill the black-clothed old man? Whoosh whoosh. At this time the wind blew again. The group of disciples behind the brawny man also launched a sneak attack. Boom! The brawny man flew forward for a while. Fortunately, after the black-clothed old man died, he subconsciously poured out his true chi to defend himself. Because of this he saved his life. However, after he was attacked, Yixian also suddenly rushed out. He had given his opponent 2 chances, but his opponent did not cherish them. Eruption of killing intent. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. A golden flaming dragon instantly engulfed the burly man. However, the burly man had already gathered all of his true chi to use a defensive divine ability before he was attacked, so he was not killed by the attack. Oh! The golden flaming dragon once again engulfed the brawny man at the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. This time, he was unable to block it. A system notification sounded. A 5th-level fragmentation realm martial artist was killed by Yixian. Then Yixian glanced at the giant tree protection barrier. He was afraid that the sound of the battle would disturb Luoluo, so he asked the two of them to leave. He did not expect them to court death. In this way he also obtained a lot of spoils. Immediately he gathered everyone's interspatial rings together. Just a little more. Yixian was a little helpless. 2 5th-level fragmentation realm martial artists, 8 4th-level fragmentation realm martial artists, and more than 33rd-level fragmentation realm martial artists. The wealth of these people combined was not enough for him to break through to the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. What a tragedy! Forget it. Yixian shook his head and then ordered everyone, all of you spread out and patrol. If anyone dares to come close, attack directly. Yes, the 40 over people said in unison. Such a force was enough to defend against 2 5th-level fragmentation realm martial artists. In addition to the giant tree protection barrier, Luoluo should not have any problems. At this time, Luoluo's mutation was coming to an end. However, Yixian still felt that something was strange, but he could not put his finger on it. Nothing should happen, right? Yixian comforted himself in his heart. Luoluo was in the middle of a breakthrough. If she was suddenly interrupted and kept in the planting space, who knew what would happen? Hence he had to succeed in one go. Fortunately, his worries were unnecessary. Ding! The host's beast god bloodline has evolved. A system notification sounded. Evolved? Hearing this, Yixian's eyes lit up. This meant that Luoluo's mutation was complete. Young master. At this time Luoluo transmitted her voice. Yixian hurriedly returned to the giant tree protection barrier. He saw that Luoluo had grown 3 new tails. In addition, one of her tails had turned golden. A golden tail? Yixian was a little surprised. Previously, Luoluo had only grown some golden fur. But now, one of her 9 tails had turned completely golden. The heaven-loathing fox bloodline in my body seems to be a golden fox, so I estimate that all of them will turn golden in the future. However, I still need to go into seclusion for a while to consolidate, Luoluo explained. Yixian nodded slightly. This was not a big deal and there were benefits. After all, this meant that Luoluo still had room for improvement. He sensed it and found that Luoluo had only broken through from the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm to the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. However, the faith crystals in Luoluo's universe ring should be enough for Luoluo to break through to the 6th level of the fragmentation realm easily. Since you've already broken through, let's set off. Old tree, remove the giant tree protection barrier. Yixian said. Okay. Old tree nodded and removed the giant tree protection barrier. As for those people who were tamed, Yixian naturally would not let them go. Who asked these people to provoke him? These people were all recruited by Luoluo. Luoluo had already cultivated the Eyes of Charm, and the effects of the Eyes of Charm and the Eyes of Charm had both improved. It was not a problem to charm these people. The 8 of you follow me to Million Treasures City, Yixian said to these 8 martial artists at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. Yes, master. The 8 of them nodded. Among these 8 people, 4 were from Million Treasures City, and the other 4 were from Treasure-Seeking Sect. Previously, the Hu clan's 3rd clan elder said that Hu Lai's father, Hu Tai, had gone to Million Treasure City, so Yixian's target this time was Million Treasure City. With these people leading the way, he would be able to find it faster. Set off. Then Yixian continued on his journey. However, these people's speed was very slow. With their speed, it would take at least 2 days to rush back to Million Treasure City. Therefore, Yixian abandoned them in the end and used shadow steps to travel alone. This way it would only take less than a day's time. However, not long after he left, a huge tremor occurred in the ground, and the source of the tremor was behind him. Rumble. Chapter 1332. What's going on? Yixian was surprised and released the old tree, and old tree. This used to be a battlefield. Treasures are often unearthed. Could it be the same this time? Old tree said in shock. 1,000 years ago there was a Nirvana realm force here, but it was destroyed. Therefore the treasures here were probably worth a lot. Let's go back and take a look. Yixian made up his mind. If a 5th stage divine artifact was unearthed, then it would be a huge gain. Once he devoured it, he might be able to break through several times. Immediately he used shadow steps and rushed in the direction of the treasure. At first there was only some hot lava, but the closer he got to the source of the earthquake, the more geocentric flame demons appeared. Yi Xian had seen flame demons many times. However, this geocentric flame demon was much stronger than ordinary flame demons. Its entire body was golden, and it was more handsome than ordinary flame demons. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Xian encountered a geocentric flame demon, which directly pounced on him. This speed is at least at the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian was shocked and hurriedly attacked. Killing intent explosion. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. A golden flame dragon roared out and collided with the geocentric flame demon. However, what surprised Yi Xian was that the geocentric flame demon actually absorbed the golden flame dragon. After absorbing the golden flame dragon, the geocentric flame demon's body suddenly grew to 2 meters tall. What the f***ck? Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. He suddenly remembered that the flame dragon was also of the fire attribute. This was a disguised way to increase the opponent's strength. In that case, he would use the ice attribute. Ice and Fire Dual Dragon Sword Array. Ice Dragon Roar. Since the flames formed by the All Creation's force would be absorbed, he could only use the ice attribute to restrain it. A blue ice dragon's aura erupted and swallowed the geocentric flame demon. Immediately, the geocentric flame demon's body shrank by 1 size. It was effective. So what if you're in the 5th tier of the fragmentation realm? I'll kill you. Yi Xian's doppelganger wielding the Azure Ice Sword attacked again, whereas his main body used the devil-destroying spike that he had learned from Shi Juin. After a few rounds, the geocentric flame demon was eliminated, leaving behind a core. These elemental creatures had weak points all over their bodies. As long as an attack landed on their body, it would cause damage. Once they were injured, their strength would drop, so they were easier to deal with. After the death of this geocentric flame demon, he quickly went over and kept the core of the earth before devouring it. Unfortunately, the benefits from the core of the earth were negligible to him. However, it was a significant amount to Wei Zhentian. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. He is currently at the 4th stage of the fragmentation stage. The system prompted. This geocentric flame devil must have unearthed some kind of treasure since it came out from underground. However, we may encounter more geocentric flame devils in the following path, or even geocentric flame devils at the 6th or 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian pondered. He was about to break through to the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm, and so was the old tree. They should be able to protect themselves. Hence, Yi Xian chose to continue forward to see what kind of treasure would appear. At the same time, the commotion here had attracted the attention of the surrounding forces. The commotion this time was probably the biggest one this year. Hence, the surrounding forces had all sent experts over. Yi Xian had already expected this. Hence, he had to break through to the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm as soon as possible. Only then would he have a chance to obtain the treasure. Because the earth was already cracked beyond recognition and magma was everywhere. There weren't many places to land. Thus, Yi Xian was unable to use the shadow steps to travel, and could only fly. Soon he encountered the 2nd geocentric flame devil. Burst of killing intent. Roar of ice dragon. Devil-destroying spike. This geocentric flame devil was troublesome to others, but Yi Xian could still handle it. After a few rounds of attacks, this geocentric flame devil died an unnatural death, leaving behind a geocentric core. What a pity. The benefits of devouring this geocentric core are negligible to me. If I just devour this thing, Wei Zhentian might break through to the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm first while I'm still at the 3rd stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly stepped into his range of perception. The 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. The newcomer was a young man wearing a golden crown. He was about 30 years old. Judging from his attire, he should be from the treasure-seeking sect. The treasure-seeking sect team that Yi Xian had encountered earlier were only at the 3rd and 4th stage of the fragmentation realm. In the treasure-seeking sect, only those who had reached the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm could participate in the inner sect assessment. To put it simply, those before were outer sect disciples. However, this young man with a golden crown was dressed differently from those people before. He was probably an inner sect disciple of the treasure-seeking sect. Kid, what happened here? The young man with the golden crown had an arrogant look on his face as he questioned Yi Xian. I don't know. Yi Xian replied coldly. If you don't know, then get lost. This isn't a place where you can come. The young man with the golden crown rebuked angrily. In his opinion, Yi Xian was only at the third stage of the fragmentation realm. How dare he come here? He must have a death wish. What did you say? Yi Xian glared at him. What? A piece of trash wants to attack me? The young man with the golden crown was also slightly surprised. I don't know where you get your sense of superiority from. Since that's the case, I'll show you how powerful this piece of trash is. Yi Xian was already used to people like this. If this kind of person did not provoke him, he would not bother with them. However, this young man with the golden crown actually asked him to get lost. This was absolutely intolerable. Mind's eye. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He directly crossed the distance between them and launched an attack. Boom! The young man with the golden crown trembled as he felt a sharp pain in his head. His soul twitched violently. He immediately understood that Yi Xian had attacked his soul. Good fellow, you're courting death. Don't blame me for this. The young man with the golden crown was furious as he charged towards Yi Xian. He could not use the Peerless Flame Dragon Slash and Dual Dragon Roar against the Geocentric Flame Demon. However, he could use these two moves to his heart's content when fighting against humans. However, Yi Xian did not want to kill the young man with the golden crown so easily. The young man with the golden crown was not in the mood to kill Yi Xian. He immediately slashed his sword and went straight for Yi Xian's head. Fifth stage of the fragmentation realm and third stage of the fragmentation realm were 2 stages apart. He did not need to use his divine abilities to deal with Yi Xian. However, this attack was easily defeated by Yi Xian. Peerless Flame Dragon Slash. After the sword chi was defeated, Yi Xian launched a counterattack. However, he did not use his killing intent explosion. Such power. Chapter 1333. Demonic Fist. The golden-crowned young man threw out a hand and destroyed the golden flame dragon. It was just a low-level void-breaking divine power. He was arrogant and disdained to use his ultimate skill against Yi Xian because it was humiliating. Boy, do you think you can fight me with this ultimate skill alone? The golden-crowned young man could not help but mock him. Kill me first. Cut the crap, you piece of trash. Yi Xian scolded him back. Fine. Since you want to die, I'll send you on your way. The golden-crowned young man shouted angrily and threw out a punch with his left fist. Rumble. A series of muffled sounds were heard as the two figures fought in the air. It was hard to tell who had the upper hand. As time went by, the golden-crowned young man's expression became more and more solemn. How was it possible that he could not defeat Yi Xian even though he was at the 5th level of the void-breaking realm? Where did this boy come from? The golden-crowned young man wondered in his heart. However, he did not want to waste any more time because the treasure had been unearthed. He had to get there as soon as possible. Boy, I'll give you a chance to leave now. As long as you, the golden-crowned young man said. But Yi Xian did not wait for him to finish and attacked again. I won't play with you anymore. Take my wrath. Yi Xian suddenly split into 2. Ice and Fire Dual Dragon Sword Array. Killing Intent Explosion. Dual Dragon Roar. This attack was more than 5 times stronger than the previous Peerless Flame Dragon Slash. The golden-crowned young man widened his eyes. By the time he reacted, the roar was already in front of him. Whoosh! 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 The golden-crowned young man was instantly engulfed. His body was incinerated, leaving nothing behind. He did not expect that he would be killed by a kid at the 3rd level of the void-breaking realm before he could even see the treasure. If he had a choice, he would choose not to make an enemy out of Yi Xian and stay away from him. Unfortunately, it was too late. The golden-crowned young man's body turned into nothingness, but he left 3 things behind. One was an interspatial ring, one was a weapon, and the last was the golden crown on his head. This golden crown is indeed a heaven-defying artifact. It's able to defend against soul attacks. No wonder that brat was able to block my eye of the heart so many times. Yi Xian swallowed the golden crown and his cultivation increased slightly. Things like this could also be exchanged in the shop. Then, he began to count the golden-crowned young man's belongings. Ding! The host has made a breakthrough. The host is currently at the 4th level of the fragmentation stage. The long-awaited system notification finally sounded. He's already at the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm, so the old tree will probably be able to break through soon as well. Yi Xian thought to himself. This was one of the reasons why he had taken the old tree as his third treasure. As long as his cultivation level increased, the effect of the bloodline of the divine tree of life in his body would also increase, and the effect of his blood on the old tree would also increase. To put it simply, the old tree could almost keep up with him, and sometimes even surpass him. Because of that, he was able to raise his cultivation base very quickly. If he had taken ordinary heaven-reaching beasts as his beasts, it would have been too difficult for him to raise his cultivation base. That was why he had only taken 3 beasts so far. There were still 3 left. I've avenged my humiliation, let's hurry. Yi Xian looked into the distance and his figure flashed. At this time, more than an hour had passed since the earth split open. Those with lower cultivation levels might still be on their way, but those with higher cultivation levels might have already arrived. After breaking through, it was even easier for Yi Xian to deal with the geocentric flame demon. Soon he saw several martial artists at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. Beneath his feet was the place where the old tree had set up the giant wood protection barrier. It was also Luolua's seclusion spot. At this time, this place had already become a magma hell. The bottom was full of magma, and it stretched as far as the eye could see. There were already many people in the air. In addition to the martial artists at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm, there were also many at the 4th or 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. In fact, Yi Xian even sensed a super powerhouse who was suspected to be at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. They came so quickly. Yi Xian thought to himself. But what he didn't expect was that he would actually come to Luolua's seclusion spot. Could it be that the reason why the treasure-seeking ruler spun crazily just now wasn't because of Luoluo, but because this place was originally a treasure location? Yi Xian suddenly thought of this question. Luolua's breakthrough earlier had stirred up the heaven and earth origin chi, so he didn't pay much attention to it. Now it seemed that perhaps because Luoluo was breaking through, the treasure buried deep underground formed a miraculous structure, causing this treasure to be unearthed. He just didn't know what kind of treasure it was. Last time there was a mountain giant that had been sleeping for 1,000 years. It had a broken tier 5 divine artifact on its body. This time there's actually lava. This seems to be even deeper than the ancient battlefield. Yeah, I also have a feeling that this time is no small matter. Maybe it's not a treasure that's unearthed, but the birth of a powerful divine artifact. The geocentric flame demons in this area have already been wiped out. I don't know if new ones will appear. Let's watch from afar first. A few treasure-seeking sect disciples whispered to each other. Although the ground cracked and large amounts of magma gushed out, it seemed like the treasure hadn't appeared yet because the heaven and earth essence chi hadn't dispersed yet. There was a 7th stage fragmentation realm expert present. He wasn't from treasure-seeking sect or Million Treasures City, but from a family clan established in the wilderness. With his realm, his spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate the magma, so he was also waiting. With his realm, as long as the treasure appeared, he could immediately snatch it. No one present could stop him. The spiritual consciousness of the surrounding people couldn't penetrate the magma either, but Yi Xian's eye of revelation could. There's actually a large number of geocentric flame demons hidden underground? Yi Xian was shocked. He saw a large number of geocentric flame demons in the huge underground cavern that was gushing out magma continuously. There were at least a few hundred of them. Most importantly, there seemed to be 6th and 7th stage fragmentation realm experts among these geocentric flame demons. Retreat first. Let the others be cannon fodder. Yi Xian subconsciously swallowed his saliva. If this group of geocentric flame demons suddenly charged out, the dozens of people present would probably be instantly surrounded and killed. However, this group of geocentric flame demons seemed to be waiting for something. They only moved in the magma and didn't have any intention of charging out. In this magma ocean, my dark shadow steps can't be used. I can only use the shadow of the Wind Rider dragon. It's better to be cautious. For safety's sake, Yi Xian temporarily retreated to the back and let the others be cannon fodder. If there was danger, he could react in time and escape. The surrounding people all waited cautiously. In addition, more people came one after another. In less than half an hour, More than 100 people had gathered. Chapter 1334. Ding! The Devil Tree Battle Soldier has broken through. He is currently at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. A system notification suddenly rang. The old tree is restrained by the geocentric flame demon. His combat strength is probably not as good as Wei Zhentian's. I should let him continue cultivating first. Yi Xian thought in his heart. At this time he was thinking that if he took away the universe rings of everyone present, he could at least break through to the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. Wei Zhentian could even reach the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. However, what he needed most at this time was cannon fodder, so he endured. After all, there were still a few 6th level and a 7th level fragmentation realm martial artists. Time slowly passed. When around 150 people had gathered, the magma spring suddenly erupted into a pillar of magma that soared into the sky. Careful, don't get hit by the magma. A martial artist shouted loudly. Even if he did not warn them, the people around him understood. The magma below could easily cut through the flesh of a 5th level fragmentation realm martial artist, and this pillar of magma that soared into the sky was even hotter. Even a 6th level fragmentation realm martial artist did not dare to be careless. Back off. Run. Away from it. Chapter 1335. No one knew if the eternal earth core fire was left behind from the great battle thousands of years ago, or if it had always been hidden underground. But generally speaking, this mysterious fire was very precious. If I get it and devour it, my cultivation level might increase by a few levels. Yi Xian licked his dry lips, and a greedy look appeared in his eyes. He must get this mysterious fire. This mysterious fire seems to be the eternal earth core fire that's ranked 93rd on the mysterious fire list. At this time another person shouted. The eternal earth core fire was usually born underground. After some time, the eternal earth core fire could give birth to geocentric flame demons. In other words, the geocentric flame demons and the flame demon overlord were all born from the eternal earth core fire. When the surrounding people heard the name eternal earth core fire, they also showed a greedy look. Nirvana realm experts could use the mysterious fire to refine their physique, but fragmentation realm experts couldn't. They would be instantly burned by the mysterious fire. However, some mysterious fires had special effects. For example, the eternal earth core fire could prolong one's life as long as one cultivated beside it. Even the light of the fire could heal one's internal injuries. It was said that if a Nirvana realm expert merged with the eternal earth core fire, he could increase his lifespan by at least 50 years. If he took it out, he could even buy the entire Million Treasure City. Gosh, the treasure unearthed this time is probably the most precious one since the establishment of the Million Treasure Alliance. Don't say that. The more precious something is, the more troublesome it is. This isn't something we can get our hands on. Yes, even Nirvana realm experts would lower themselves to snatch it. An innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. If people know that there is such a treasure, they will definitely die without a burial place. Although they said so, they all had an urge in their hearts. Who didn't want to get such a treasure? Who didn't want to soar to the sky? Not to mention them, even Yi Xian was tempted. This thing, I must get it. Yi Xian opened his eyes wide and made a plan in his heart. However, to get the eternal earth core fire, he had to kill the geocentric flame demons and the flame demon overlord first. At this time, another group of people just happened to flash over from afar. It was the Million Treasure City team that had arrived late, and the person in the lead was also at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Eternal earth core fire? The middle-aged man leading the Million Treasure City team cried out in surprise. The Million Treasure City was a trading center, and there were all sorts of things inside. He, who often dealt with treasures, naturally recognized it with a single glance. The two of you, let's kill this fire devil overlord first. We'll talk about the spoils later. He was the 7th level of the fragmentation realm martial artist who had arrived first. Who are you? The leader of the treasure-seeking sect questioned. Northwest, Tuoba Yi of the Tuoba family. The green-clothed elder replied. Bei Lu belongs to the Million Treasure City's City Lord Manor. The middle-aged man also reported his background. Elder of the treasure-seeking sect, Feng Qi. The elder leading the treasure-seeking sect also introduced himself. There were two major powers in the Thousand Treasures Alliance's territory, the treasure-seeking sect and the Thousand Treasures City. In addition, there were some independent families. Coincidentally, the Tuoba family did not belong to the treasure-seeking sect, nor did they belong to the 10,000 treasure city. If that was the case, they could only cooperate. Taking advantage of the fact that the Fire Devil Overlord had not completely climbed up, the three of them quickly discussed countermeasures. This Fire Devil Overlord's strength was not to be underestimated. Those who could harm it were at least at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. At this moment, there were only a dozen 6th level fragmentation realm martial artists and 3 7th level fragmentation realm martial artists. As for the others, they were of no help at all. This Fire Devil Overlord is about to come out completely. Inform the others immediately. Feng Qi of the treasure-seeking sect shouted. This Fire Devil Overlord was not to be underestimated. Even if the three of them joined forces, they only had a 10 to 20% chance of defeating it. After all, there were so many geocentric flame demons around. The key was that they did not have anything specially used to collect exotic flames. If they put it into their interspatial rings, they were afraid that their interspatial rings and hands would be burned to ashes before they could enter. However, they had to deal with this Fire Devil Overlord first. Woo woo woo! Amidst a roar, the Fire Devil Overlord finally successfully climbed to the ground. When the three parties were discussing earlier, they were also cleaning up the geocentric flame demons. At this moment, there were only a little more than 200 geocentric flame demons left. Forget it. Let's go first. The others will clean up the geocentric flame demons. Feng Qi of the treasure-seeking sect began to attack as soon as he finished speaking. Although this Fire Devil Overlord looked very terrifying, there were still some people who did not care about their lives and joined forces to deal with the geocentric flame demons in an attempt to collect some geocentric cores. Yixian was the same. This Fire Devil Overlord is stronger than the three of us. Even if the three of us join forces, we might not be able to fight it. I'd better clean up the geocentric flame demons first. Yixian focused on the geocentric flame demons first. After all, the Fire Devil Overlord was not so easy to kill. Even if it was killed, someone else would get it. At that time, he would reap the benefits. It was indeed difficult for him to deal with a 7th level fragmentation realm martial artist now. However, after this battle, it would not be certain because someone might die. Killing intent explosion. Cyclone slash. Yixian was also quickly cleaning up the geocentric flame demons. At the same time, he was the only one who dared to challenge a few geocentric flame demons alone. This Cyclone Slash was a middle-grade fragmentation realm martial artist that he copied from the people around him. This Cyclone Slash was similar to the scar-faced assassin's whirlwind clouds. After striking the geocentric flame demons, countless wind blades would be released. It was very effective against the geocentric flame demons. If they were to compare the number of kills, Yixian's kill count was probably second only to that green-clothed old man, Tuoba Yi. Therefore, it was inevitable that he would be noticed by others. Where did this kid come from? He can actually kill a 5th-level geocentric flame demon so easily. He can even fight a 6th-level geocentric flame demon. The three fragmentation realm martial artists all noticed Yixian. However, they did not have time to think because the geocentric flame demons had already arrived. Huff! 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 The Fire Devil Overlord directly blasted towards the green-clothed old man, Tuoba Yi. If he was hit, Tuoba Yi would be severely injured even if he did not die. Fortunately, Tuoba Yi's strength was not bad and was not hit by this attack. On the other side, Treasure Hunting Sect's Elder Feng Qi and Million Treasure City's City Lord Residence's Bei Lu were attacking the Fire Devil Overlord from the back. Their attacks could injure the Fire Devil Overlord, but the Fire Devil Overlord had the eternal core fire in his body. His injuries were instantly healed. Not good. It is indeed like this. When Tuoba Yi and the other two saw this, their faces changed drastically. Chapter 1336. If the Fire Devil Monarch's injuries couldn't recover, they still had a chance. But if the Fire Devil Monarch's injuries were constantly recovering, then they wouldn't even have a 10% chance of winning. Hold him back and wait for reinforcements. Tuoba Yi yelled. This Fire Devil Monarch had a mysterious flame on him, so it was imaginable how precious it was. What they had to do now was to hold back the Fire Devil Monarch and prevent Lament from going back underground. But who knew when reinforcements would arrive? What if it was an hour or two? Wouldn't they be in trouble? We can't fight him head-on. Let's retreat. Feng Qi yelled and swiftly retreated with his men. So did Bei Lu from the Myriad Treasure City's City Lord estate. Now it was Tuoba Yi challenging the Fire Devil Monarch alone. You two mother ** curse. Tuoba Yi couldn't help cursing out loud. They had agreed to join forces earlier, but now, after seeing the Fire Devil Monarch's strength, they actually turned around and left. This way, he would become a thorn in the Fire Devil Monarch's side. Let's go. Tuoba Yi's expression changed as he immediately turned around and left. The surrounding 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artists also retreated when they saw the situation. Huff! 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 The Fire Devil Monarch launched another attack. But this time, his target wasn't Tuoba Yi, but those 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artists. Bam! The Fire Devil Monarch blasted out a punch, and suddenly, a huge fireball smashed towards the 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artists. The latter couldn't dodge in time and was hit head-on. That extremely high temperature directly incinerated him, leaving behind only a hard universe ring and weapon. Instant kill. A 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artist was instantly killed. This greatly reduced the morale of the surrounding people. They all wanted to kill the Fire Devil Monarch, but they didn't have the strength. If this punch hit those 3 people, it would probably be able to instantly kill them. This Fire Devil Monarch's strength has already reached the 8th level of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian gulped his saliva and then flung the Skyquake sword at the Fire Devil Monarch. Of course, he was not sending Wei Zhenqian to his death. Instead, he was going to seize the universe ring of that 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artist. After all, Wei Zhenqian was immortal. Even if he was killed by the Fire Devil Monarch, he could still be reborn. The heaven-shocking sword tore through the air and successfully obtained the universe ring. But on his way back, a 6th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame demon suddenly appeared and smashed Wei Zhenqian into pieces with a single punch. The universe ring also fell from the sky. However, this distance happened to be within the range of Yi Xian. Eyes of Myriad. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. He used his all creation's force to drag the ring of cosmos and then moved it towards him. Ding! Wei Zhenqian has broken through. He is currently at the 6th stage of the fragmentation stage. A system notification sounded. At the same time, Yi Xian was also targeted by the 6th stage fragmentation stage geocentric flame devil. Killing intent explosion. Cyclone slash. Yi Xian took out his heaven-shocking sword again and slashed down. An ordinary slash pierced through the air and entered the geocentric flame devil's body. The geocentric flame devil's body began to dissipate. This was the effect of the sword energy erupting inside its body. Yi Xian only needed 2 or 3 slashes to deal with a 5th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame devil. But against a 6th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame devil, he would need at least 7 to 8 slashes. Fortunately, there were no other geocentric flame devils nearby. Yi Xian could fight this 6th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame devil alone. Killing intent explosion. Cyclone slash. Yi Xian attacked as he retreated. Although he was in the air, he had the shadow of the Imperial Wind Dragon and the eyes of Myriad. His speed in the air was not much slower than a 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artist. These geocentric flame devils were very stupid and were quickly kite to death. Bang! The 6th-level fragmentation realm geocentric flame devil exploded and left behind a geocentric core. Yi Xian hurriedly put away this geocentric core and glanced at it. The Fire Devil Monarch was chasing after the group of humans. While he was killing monsters, another 2 6th-level fragmentation realm martial artists had died. In that case, the 2 interspatial rings would belong to him. However, the people around also had their eyes on these 2 universe rings. When Yi Xian used the eyes of Myriad to hook the 2 universe rings, an unfriendly shout suddenly came from not far away. "Boy, get out of my way!" Yi Xian turned around and saw a bald man flying towards him. From the looks of it, he wanted to snatch the 2 universe rings. "You don't have the right to take what I want." Yi Xian did not say anything and directly pulled out his sword and slashed. Killing intent explosion. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. A golden flame dragon swept out. Cyclone slash. The other party also slashed with his sword. It turned out that this person was the one who Yixian had secretly learned the fragmentation divine power. Now he was here to ask Yixian for a lesson. The cyclone slash sank into the golden flame dragon and immediately caused a violent explosion inside. Unfortunately, it was not able to disperse the golden flame dragon in one hit. Yixian's attack was slightly better. How is this possible? The bald man was shocked. He was at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm, and Yixian was only at the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. How could he lose in terms of attack power? He immediately slashed with his sword again. This time he dispersed the golden flame dragon. However, after the golden flame dragon, there was another attack that he neglected. Eye of Destruction. Rip. The bald man's head was directly cut off and sent flying. The disintegration effect also disintegrated his chin. In the blink of an eye, only half of his head was left. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. After Yixian heard the system notification, he used the power of all creations to drag the corpse over. This time he obtained 3 6th-level fragmentation realm interspatial rings. What a profit! When Yixian put away the 3 interspatial rings, although he did not hear the system notification, his aura skyrocketed. It seems that I can break through to the 5th level of the fragmentation realm after another 2 rings. Yixian's eyes flickered as he secretly calculated in his heart. As long as he broke through to the 5th level of the fragmentation realm, he would be qualified to fight with the Fire Demon Monarch. He would also be qualified to snatch the Eternal Earth Core Fire from the others. This Eternal Earth Core Fire can be used to refine Wei Jintian, increase the growth rate of the old tree, and increase Mayan Luolua's lifespan. This is killing 4 birds with 1 stone. If I can devour it, it can even help me break through several times. Thinking of this, Yixian's figure flashed as he continued to kill the geocentric flame demons. At the same time, he was also paying attention to whether anyone else had fallen so that he could collect the corpses. Tuoba Yi, who was targeted by the Fire Demon Monarch, had a decent movement technique and was able to avoid the Fire Demon Monarch's attack. Other than some of his hair and clothes being burned by the scorching aura, he did not have any obvious injuries. However, at this moment, woo woo woo. Chapter 1337. Tuoba Yi frowned. This was a good opportunity to attack, but the Fire Devil Sovereign had the Eternal Earth Core Fire. Hence, he felt that it was better to use this opportunity to distance himself from the Fire Devil Sovereign. What is the Fire Devil Sovereign doing? In the distance, Yixian used his Eye of Revelation and discovered that there were some changes in the Fire Devil Sovereign's body. The Fire Devil Sovereign originally had 1 core of the earth, but at this moment, the Fire Devil Sovereign suddenly condensed 3 cores of the earth. Bang! Suddenly, the Fire Devil Sovereign's body exploded. The 3 cores of the earth were ejected and fell into the magma. Soon after, 3 geocentric flame demons appeared. Although they were not as big as the Flame Demon Sovereign, they were still half as tall. Core flame demons at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. After the Fire Devil Sovereign split into 3 core flame demons, his body had indeed shrunk a little. However, under the effect of the Eternal Earth Core Fire, his body began to recover bit by bit. This is troublesome. Seeing this, Yixian could not help but raise his eyebrows. Originally, only this Fire Devil Sovereign was a threat to him. Now that the Fire Devil Sovereign suddenly split into 3 core flame demons, it was even more troublesome to deal with. Most importantly, this Fire Devil Sovereign could still rely on the Eternal Earth Core Fire to recover. If he was given some time to recover to his peak, he might split again. It seemed like he had to get something to suppress the Fire Devil Sovereign's recovery. While Yixian was pondering, the 3 core flame demons had already rushed out and attacked the nearest target. 1 Fire Devil Sovereign was already frightening enough. Now that there were 3 core flame demons at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, the others were scared witless and did not dare to turn around to leave. Yixian looked at the core flame demons and raised his eyebrows. Suddenly, he found something that could restrain them. Frozen Sky Pill. It allows the user to possess Ice attribute True Qi. It has a 50% restraining effect on Fire attribute. When he saw this, Yixian's eyes lit up. Although the effect of the Frozen Heaven Pill only lasted for an hour and could only be used once a day, it was enough. However, this Frozen Heaven Pill was also divided into levels. Yixian was currently at the 4th level of the fragmentation stage, and was about to break through to the 5th level of the fragmentation stage. Thus, he had to wait until he broke through to exchange for it. If he broke through while the effects were still in effect, then it would lose its effect. Before this, he had used the Super Devouring Crystal to exchange for an ice element shattering divine ability, Skyfrost Fist, a mid-tier fragmentation divine ability. Without hesitation, Yixian exchanged for it and started learning. Apart from that, he also exchanged for a pair of gloves, a high-grade level for elemental divine weapon. Now everything was ready. All that was left was cultivation. Once he broke through to the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm, his damage to the geocentric flame devil would increase greatly. Right at this moment, "Kid, hand over those interspatial rings." Suddenly, a low shout entered Yixian's ears. Without even turning his head, he knew that 2 martial practitioners at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm were charging towards him. "There's a path to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell instead." Perfect timing. The corners of Yixian's mouth curled up slightly as he turned around to attack. Killing intent explosion. Peerless flame dragon slash. Skyfrost fist. A golden flame dragon and an extreme ice fist blasted towards the 2 martial practitioners at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm respectively. These two had seen Yixian obtain 3 interspatial rings from afar, and then saw Yixian kill a martial practitioner at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm, so they teamed up to snatch them. However, they did not know that they had kicked an iron plate. Bang! Bang! Both of them were unable to block the attack and were sent flying by Yixian. At the same time, Yixian added an eye of destruction behind the peerless flame dragon slash. Rip! Another head was thrown into the air. What? The other person was shocked. One of them was killed in just one move. How was this possible? However, in Yixian's eyes, he was also a dead man. Yixian turned into a stream of light and put away the corpse. After his aura skyrocketed, he rushed towards the other person. Killing intent explosion. Peerless flame dragon slash. Eye of destruction. Yixian did not need to use his left fist at all. The faint eye of destruction was enough to kill him. After the second person died, he rushed over again. In his estimation, he could break through to the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm as long as he devoured this interspatial ring. At this time, a geocentric flame demon at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm suddenly rushed towards him. Humph! Yixian quickly put the interspatial ring into his bag. Ding! The host has broken through. The host is currently at the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. The system notification finally sounded. After breaking through, Yixian's physique and true chi strength had a qualitative leap. However, he did not immediately exchange for the freezing sky pill. Instead, he broke through the void and left. Whoosh! The void door closed, and the geocentric flame demon at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm missed. Yixian actually had the ability to kill it, but he did not want to do so now because there were others around. What he wanted now was to let the fire demon monarch and the other geocentric flame demons drive these humans away. When there was no one else, he would attack. 1-on-1. Yes, 1-on-1. 1-on-4. He had left an eye of the void somewhere else, so he did not go far. He hurried for a while and arrived at the previous place. This time there was no one there. He did not know if the remaining people were all dead or had escaped. With the eye of revelation, Yixian observed the fire demon monarch and the 3 4th stage geocentric flame demons from afar. Then he circled around the 4 flame fiends, but did not find anyone else. Then it was time for him. Ding! Freezing sky pill successfully exchanged. The system notification sounded. The freezing sky pill at the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm cost him 4/5 of the super devouring crystal. However, as long as he could kill the 3 geocentric flame demons and the fire demon monarch, it was worth it. Eye of Glory close. Yixian closed the Eye of Glory and consumed the freezing sky pill. Instantly, the true chi in his body turned blue. Not only that, but his entire body also changed. Even his hair turned sky blue and was very dazzling. His body also emitted traces of cold air, as if he had walked out of an ice field. Come! Yixian's eyes suddenly shot out a ray of light. However, he was not stupid enough to rush over. He still had to use some tricks. Wei Zhentian, go and lure one over. Chapter 1338. Wei Zhentian trembled in dissatisfaction. Yixian always used it as bait, which made it unhappy. Do you still want the core of the earth? Yixian narrowed his eyes and asked with a smile. Whoosh! Hearing about the core of the earth, Wei Zhentian flew toward the nearest geocentric flame demon without hesitation. Whoosh! 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 The geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm was successfully attracted. Then Wei Zhentian quickly retreated. Boom! However, due to the difference in their realms, Wei Zhentian was instantly smashed into pieces by a flaming fist. Then Wei Zhentian moved again and lured the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm over. The effect of the frozen sky pill only lasted for an hour. In order to lure the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, Yixian spent a full 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm finally left. Yixian estimated that the battle here would not attract the attention of the flame demon monarch. Killing intent explosion. Skyfrost fist. When the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm approached, Yixian directly attacked. A blue fist shadow pierced through the air and ruthlessly smashed the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Instantly, the extremely cold air invaded its body. Kacha! Kacha! With a few crisp sounds, the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm was suddenly frozen into ice. However, the surrounding flames continued to burn, and the ice began to melt again. It's so powerful. Yixian narrowed his eyes. The frozen sky pill, Skyfrost fist, and a divine artifact that increased the attack power of the ice attribute actually caused such damage in one punch. This was directly out of Yixian's expectations. He estimated that it would only take 3 punches to kill a 7th level geocentric flame demon. Killing intent explosion. Skyfrost fist. Yixian attacked again. Whoosh! Whoosh! The fist shadow whizzed out and once again hit the geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Before the ice could melt, another large piece of ice was formed. The geocentric flame demon's flames were frozen, and even its movement speed decreased greatly. At this time, Yixian circulated his true qi once again and threw a punch. This punch directly froze the geocentric flame demon. Following that, Yixian casually struck it and shattered it. The core of the earth also fell into Yixian's hands. And Yixian took flame demon at the 7th level. Was Yi Shui only? And Yixian only took a few seconds. Yi was Yi Sky if it weren't for the fact that the Skyfrost fist consumed a lot of energy and couldn't be used consecutively within a short period of time. He would have been able to insta-kill Wang Chong if he used both fists simultaneously. I didn't expect the frozen heaven pill to be so useful. It seems like I don't need to lure them one by one. Was Yi is Yi. Was Yi but Yi demon but it. However, this frozen sky pill only increased the power of flame demons by 50%. Without this effect, it would not be so powerful. Yixian gathered his courage and rushed toward the flame demon monarch. Of course, before he fought with this flame demon monarch, he had to deal with the other 2 geocentric flame demons. Hey dummy, come and beat me! Yixian shouted at a geocentric flame demon at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Although this geocentric flame demon might not understand, Yixian's tone still made its hatred soar. Whoosh! Whoosh! This geocentric flame demon immediately turned around and charged toward Yixian. Yixian was not afraid of it. However, when this geocentric flame demon moved, the flame demon monarch suddenly turned around. F***CK. Yixian's body trembled as he jumped in fright. However, this flame demon monarch only glanced at him and turned around again. In this flame demon monarch's opinion, this 5th level fragmentation realm brat would definitely die at the hands of this geocentric flame demon, so it did not bother to attack. Not moving. Yixian scanned with his eye of revelation and found that this flame demon monarch was at the hole it came out from, absorbing the energy rising from the earth's core. Seemed to be recovering. I see. Splitting is different from being injured. After splitting, the eternal geocentric flame cannot recover. Yixian immediately understood. Previously, he saw the flame demon monarch grow stronger after splitting. In fact, the flame demon monarch was already injured. This meant that this flame demon monarch was weaker than before. This was a good sign for Yixian. Since this was the case, it was even easier to deal with. Although this flame demon monarch did not move, the other geocentric flame demon pounced. Yixian 1 against 2. So what if it's 1 against 2? Sky Frost Fist. Without another word, Yixian raised his hand and punched. At the same time, he kept retreating, keeping a distance from these two 7th level fragmentation realm geocentric flame demons. Kacha! 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 A series of crisp sounds rang out. After taking 3 punches, the geocentric flame demon in front was completely frozen. Then it was pierced by Wei Zhentian, turning into countless ice crystals that fell to the ground. Whoosh whoosh. At this time, the second geocentric flame demon rushed forward and threw a flaming fist at Yixian. Killing intent explosion. Skyfrost Fist. Yixian threw a punch and collided with the flaming fist, freezing the fireball. Then it was directly shattered by Yixian's 10,000 mammoth power. Soon this third geocentric flame demon was also dealt with by Yixian. One had to admit that this geocentric flame demon had zero intelligence. Like the Walking Dead, it only knew how to attack and did not know how to dodge. However, the same could not be said for the fire demon monarch. When Yixian swallowed the 2 geocentric cores, he heard a system notification. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. Currently at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. However, at this moment, Yixian's expression also darkened. This was because the fire demon monarch had its eyes on him. This fire demon monarch was different from the other geocentric flame demons. It had its own thoughts. Now that it saw its doppelganger killed by Yixian, it could not help but let out a roar. Then, it stopped absorbing the energy rising from the geocentric flame demon monarch and charged toward Yixian. There's still more than 50 minutes. I don't believe I can't kill you. Yixian's eyes shone brightly. He gathered his true qi and threw a punch. This fire demon monarch had its own thoughts. Therefore, unlike the other geocentric flame demons, it would only attack within its attack range, and would not use its attacks to block its opponent's attacks. Whoosh whoosh. It also threw a punch. A fireball collided with the Skyfrost Fist. However, this time Yixian was at a disadvantage. After all, this fire demon monarch was at the 8th level of the fragmentation realm. The fireball dispersed the Skyfrost Fist and then went straight for Yixian. Chapter 1339. This Flame Devil Emperor had split before. If it hadn't, it would be even more powerful. In just one exchange, Yixian felt a huge pressure. The Skyfrost Fist consumes too much true qi. I can't condense it quickly. It's a bit difficult to deal with this Flame Devil Emperor. Yixian thought to himself. He recalled Wei Zhentian and used it as a weapon. Killing intent explosion. Cyclone Slash. The execution speed of this move was 3 times faster than the Skyfrost Fist. In other words, the time it took to use the Skyfrost Fist once was enough to use the Cyclone Slash 3 times. In the current situation, the Cyclone Slash was more useful than the Skyfrost Fist. In any case, the Frozen Sky Pills effect was to change true qi to the ice attribute. It wasn't mandatory to use it with the Skyfrost Fist. He had to be careful when fighting the 8th stage of the Fragmentation Realm Flame Devil Emperor. Although Yixian's speed in the sky was comparable to a 7th stage Fragmentation Realm martial artist, he could be consigned to eternal damnation if he wasn't careful. Therefore, he felt that it was necessary to leave this sea of lava. As long as he was on land, his movement speed would increase explosively. No! At this time, Yixian suddenly thought of something. There were other ways to use the power of all creations. Let's do it. Suddenly, Yixian directly used the power of all creations to mobilize the earth element in the heaven and earth origin qi. He began to condense a large bridge in the air. This bridge surrounded the Flame Devil Sovereign, and Yixian just happened to be able to move on it. Unfortunately, the Flame Devil Emperor seemed to have seen through Yixian's intentions. Its body suddenly exploded, instantly turning the floating bridge he had painstakingly created into ash. Helpless, Yixian could only use the shadow of the Imperial Wind Dragon to dodge the Flame Devil Emperor's fireballs, and then use the Cyclone Slash to attack the Flame Devil Emperor. Whoosh! 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 The Cyclone Slashes entered the Flame Devil Emperor's body one after another. Although the ice attribute True Qi caused damage to the Flame Devil Emperor, The Flame Devil Emperor had the eternal Earth Core Fire, which could instantly heal the damage. What a tragedy! If I don't use Skyfrost Fist, the damage I receive will never exceed my recovery speed. Yixian was somewhat hesitant. After all, he was only one person. But now, Lualua was in seclusion in the planting space. The old tree was restrained by flames. Although he had Megatron, it didn't have much effect. After an hour, he might not be able to kill this Flame Devil Sovereign. Looks like I have no choice but to lure this Flame Devil Overlord onto the ground and finish it off with the Skyfrost Fist. Yixian made a plan in his mind. He only hoped that no one would disturb him during this hour. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. It can be exchanged for a low-grade Heavenly Flame Lantern. The Heavenly Flame Lantern can be used to collect heavenly flames that are ranked lower than 80. This Eternal Earth Core Flame is ranked 93rd on the Heavenly Flame ranking, so it should be enough to collect it. Even if someone else came and killed this Flame Devil Sovereign, they probably wouldn't be able to obtain the Eternal Earth Core Flame. Yixian thought as he attracted the Flame Devil Sovereign's attention. Although he was the only living person here, he still had to plan first. He couldn't wait for others to arrive. However, what he was worried about came as soon as he thought about it. Two figures had already swept over from the horizon. Their speed had already surpassed Yixian's. 8th level of the Fragmentation Realm? Yixian's figure trembled as he cursed in his heart. What he was afraid of really happened. He was just wondering if there would be 8th level Fragmentation Realm experts coming to snatch the Flame Devil Sovereign. Now they really did come. Moreover, there were 2 of them. 2 8th level Fragmentation Realm experts. They seemed to be from Million Treasure City. Yixian glanced over. There were 2 major forces in the Million Treasure Alliance. One was Million Treasure City, and the other was called Treasure Seeking Sect. It was said that these 2 forces each had a 9th level Fragmentation Realm expert. And 8th level Fragmentation Realm experts were almost the top existences in these 2 forces. Yixian didn't expect them to come so quickly. These 2 white-haired old men looked somewhat similar. They seemed to be brothers. They were the 2 ancestors of Million Treasure City's Bei family, Bei Xing and Bei Chong. Big brother, it seems like someone is fighting with the Flame Devil Sovereign. Bei Chong looked into the distance and said in surprise. Could it be that the people from Treasure Seeking Sect arrived first? Bei Xing frowned. It can't be. This place is closer to our Million Treasure City. We immediately rushed over after receiving the report. Bei Chong said in disbelief. Let's go take a look first. No matter what, we must get this Eternal Earth Core Fire, Bei Xing said in a low voice. Yes, father has been stuck at the 9th level of the Fragmentation Realm for 20 years. Now that his end is near, if he can successfully merge with this Eternal Earth Core Fire and break through to the Nirvana Realm, he can at least live for another 100 years. At that time, our Bei family will be even more powerful. As the 2 brothers talked, they got closer to the Flame Devil Sovereign. At the same time, they also saw the person fighting with the Flame Devil Sovereign. When they felt the person's aura, their expressions changed simultaneously in disbelief. This person who was fighting with the 8th level Fragmentation Realm Flame Devil Sovereign was actually only at the 5th level of the Fragmentation Realm. How could it be? In order to not expose his identity, he also used an appearance-changing mask to disguise himself as someone else. He glanced at the 2 and said in a hoarse voice, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" After hearing this, Bei Xing and Bei Chong were a little surprised. Sir, it seems a little difficult for you to fight this Flame Devil Sovereign alone, Bei Chong said with narrowed eyes. So what? Yixian asked in return. We're Bei Chong and Bei Lu from Million Treasure City. If you join forces with us and take down this Flame Devil Sovereign, you'll be rewarded, Bei Chong said. Rewarded? How much? Yixian narrowed his eyes. Hearing this, Bei Chong and Bei Xing looked at each other. They wondered if Yixian knew about the Eternal Earth Core Fire. However, if he didn't know, why did he fight with the Flame Devil Sovereign? Couldn't he just turn around and leave? Could it be because of the core of the earth that was at the 8th level of the Fragmentation Realm? Sir, this Flame Devil Sovereign appeared in our Million Treasure City territory, so we have the obligation to destroy it. If you can help us kill it, its core of the Earth's core will be yours, Bei Xing said. Core of the Earth? Yixian narrowed his eyes and thought for a moment in his heart. It seemed that the 2 of them thought he didn't know about the Eternal Earth Core Fire. He was hesitating whether to scold them back. If he told them that he already knew about the eternal earth core fire, they might be on guard. After thinking about it, he decided not to expose himself. The core will be mine, but it can only be obtained after killing the flame devil sovereign. I'm now risking my life to hold it back. Shouldn't the two of you do something? When the two of them heard Yi Xian's words, their eyes lit up. Chapter 1340. Big Brother. This kid actually managed to hold back the fire devil monarch. His strength is not to be underestimated. He might be a disciple of some major faction. Bei Chong reminded. Bei Xing naturally knew what Bei Chong meant. The former wanted to give more to Yi Xian to get closer to him. Sir, here are 50,000 medium-grade fragmentation pills. Take them as your reward. Bei Xing suddenly took out a big bag from his interspatial ring and sent it over with his all-creations force. 50,000 medium-grade fragmentation pills? Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. 50,000 medium-grade fragmentation pills were equivalent to 5 million low-grade fragmentation pills. This was enough for a person to break through to the 7th level. However, this was not enough for Yi Xian to break through to the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. Not enough. Give me 50,000 more. Yi Xian immediately demanded an exorbitant price. What? The two brothers suspected that they had misheard. 5 million fragmentation pills for Yi Xian. And Yi Xian actually made a counteroffer. Was he not too greedy? Even 500 million fragmentation pills can't buy the eternal earth core fire. It's worth a mere 5 million fragmentation pills. Thinking of this, Bei Xing made up his mind and threw out another 50,000 mid-grade fragmentation pills. 100,000 medium-grade fragmentation pills were equivalent to 10 million low-grade fragmentation pills. These 10 million shattering pills, as the reward for Yi Xian's help, were enough to show the sincerity of these two people. However, these shattering pills paled in comparison to the heavenly flame. Even the Thousand Beast Fire, which was ranked 100th on the exotic fire list, was worth more than 500 million fragmentation pills. Even the combined wealth of Million Treasure City and Treasure-Seeking Sect would not be able to afford the Thousand Beast Fire, let alone the Eternal Earth Core Fire that was ranked 93rd. Alright, deal. Yi Xian smirked. These 10 million fragmentation pills were enough for him to break through to the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. As long as he broke through, he would be able to kill the Fire Devil Monarch alone. At that time, even if Bei Xing and Bei Chong obtained the Eternal Earth Core Fire, he would be qualified to snatch it away. After Yi Xian obtained the 2 bags of fragmentation pills, he immediately swallowed them and instantly reached the peak of the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm. His strength skyrocketed. However, before the Flame Devil Monarch fell, he did not want to break through to the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. After sensing the change in Yi Xian's aura, Bei Xing and Bei Chong shuddered. They couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts, "What a guy!" He was actually hiding his strength. Yi Xian had swallowed a large amount of shattering pills to increase his cultivation. They thought that he was hiding his true strength, but now he had revealed it. I've used up quite a bit of my Zhan Qi. Each of you can help me stall for time. Yi Xian said to the two brothers. This will weaken the attack. Bei Chong said with a frown. That's fine too. I'll continue to hold them off. You guys finish them off quickly. After some thought, Yi Xian decided not to reveal his combat strength. His mission was to avoid the attacks. The two brothers immediately joined the battle. The Eternal Earth Core Fire was a good thing. Even a Nirvana Realm powerhouse would not be able to resist fighting for it, let alone them. The two brothers also knew that they had to use water or ice attribute divine powers to deal with it. Coincidentally, they both knew a water pillar divine power that could be used to deal with the Flame Devil Monarch. Water pillar. Water pillar. After the two brothers joined the battle, they directly attacked. Although the water pillar divine powers were only inferior to the fragmentation divine powers, they were able to cause considerable damage to the Flame Devil Monarch because of their high cultivation level. Every time, the flowing water pillar condensed from the all creation's divine powers could effectively deal a heavy blow to the Flame Devil Monarch. In just a short period of time, the Flame Devil Monarch's flames had weakened by a lot. Second brother, let's end this quickly. Bei Xing reminded him. They had made use of the geographical advantage to come here first. As long as they killed the Flame Devil Monarch, they could leave with the eternal earth core fire. However, if they did not finish off the Flame Devil Monarch before the treasure-seeking sex experts arrived, they would most likely have to fight with the treasure-seeking sex experts. Therefore, they had to end the battle quickly. Understood. Bei Chong nodded. He was not stingy with his true chi as he madly attacked. One after another, the water pillars bombarded the Flame Devil Monarch, causing it great pain. After 2 rounds of attacks, the hatred of the 2 brothers was higher than that of Yi Xian. Not good, it has its eyes on me. Bei Chang's expression changed as he became extremely alert when he saw the Flame Devil Monarch turn around. He had become the opponent's target. Seeing this, Yi Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that he did not need to be on tenterhooks to avoid the attacks anymore. Bei Chong was too arrogant and attracted the Flame Devil Monarch's attention. This matter could not be blamed on him. Cyclone Slash. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian also quickly attacked. He did not want to kill the Flame Devil Monarch before the treasure-seeking sex team arrived. If that happened, his chances of obtaining the Eternal Earth Core Fire would be lower. The Flame Devil Monarch had the Eternal Earth Core Fire in its body, so its injuries would heal quickly. However, under the attacks of the 3, it was unable to make up for the losses. In less than 5 seconds, the Flame Devil Monarch's body shrunk to a height of more than 30 meters. Yi Xian estimated that in another 5 seconds, the Flame Devil Monarch would be killed. If the Flame Devil Monarch did not split, it could be considered to have reached the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm. However, it had split, so its strength was weakened by at least 20%. As a result, it was now in danger. Bei Xing and Bei Chong saw that the Flame Devil Monarch was weakened and immediately attacked with all their might. 3 seconds later, the Flame Devil Monarch was only 20 meters tall. At this moment, its attack strength was about the same as Yi Xian's Cyclone Slash. It's about time. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and quietly approached the Flame Devil Monarch. The 2 brothers did the same. When the Flame Devil Monarch died, they wanted to snatch the Eternal Earth Core Fire with the power of all creations immediately. At that time, they would directly drag the Eternal Earth Core Fire back to Million Treasure City. However, they definitely did not expect that Yi Xian already knew about the Eternal Earth Core Fire. At this moment, Yi Xian used the Eye of Revelation and discovered that some people came over. They were the 3 7th stage fragmentation realm martial artists who escaped earlier. Not good. That's Feng Qi from the treasure-seeking sect. Let's end this quickly. Bei Xing said with a guilty conscience. Although their cultivation bases were higher than Feng Qi's, Feng Qi had most likely informed the treasure-seeking sect's experts. At that time, Feng Qi could directly inform the treasure-seeking sect's experts of their direction, and they would be easily caught. Big brother, I'll go deal with them, Bei Chong said in a low voice. He meant to kill Feng Qi and Tuoba Yi. Chapter 1341. Don't bother about them. Attack with all your might and leave immediately. Bei Xing replied. Right now, the Fire Devil Overlord was about to be defeated by them. This wasn't surprising at all. They would kill the Fire Devil Overlord first before dealing with Feng Qi and Tuoba Yi. Water Elemental Pillar. Water Elemental Pillar. The 2 brothers continued to attack. Finally, the Fire Devil Overlord was on the verge of death and let out a mournful howl. Woo-woo. Right at this moment, a blue fist shadow suddenly blasted on the Fire Devil Overlord. The Fire Devil Overlord's body crumbled from this attack and exploded. What? Quickly dodge. Bei Xing was startled. Who was the one who threw out the last punch? The attack power wasn't any weaker than them? However, they didn't have time to care so much as they frantically dodged the exploding flames. Relying on the Eye of Revelation, Yi Xian locked onto the Eternal Earth Core Fire's position. At the same time, he used his manifestation force to wrap around the Eternal Earth Core Fire. However, what shocked him was that the Eternal Earth Core Fire actually burned away his 10,000 mammoth force. Once the Fire Devil Overlord died, the Eternal Earth Core Fire wouldn't float and naturally fell straight down. Not good. Yi Xian's expression changed as he hurriedly turned into a stream of light and rushed over. Those flames along the way were ignored by him, and some even penetrated his body. These injuries were just child's play to him. He just needed to protect his eyes. My cultivation realm is too low. This mysterious flame even burned away my manifestation force. Fortunately, Yixian heaved a sigh of relief. The orange eternal earth core fire was right in front of him. The closer he got to the eternal earth core fire, the higher the temperature. Yixian was still 1,000 meters away from the eternal earth core fire, but he could already feel his skin melting. Yixian withstood the high temperature and took out a simple lantern from the devouring space. This was the low-grade mysterious flame lantern that he exchanged for. It was able to absorb mysterious flames that were ranked 80 and below. Absorb for me. Yixian threw the mysterious flame lantern in his hand and used his manifestation force to send it over. Following which, the eternal earth core fire flew over like a magnet and was absorbed by the mysterious flame lantern. Success! Upon seeing this, Yixian's eyes widened. His entire body seemed to be glowing and full of vigor. At this moment, the two brothers from Million Treasure City also discovered Yixian. They would never have thought that what Yixian had obtained was not the core of the Flame Devil's sovereign, but the eternal earth core fire. This brat knew about the eternal earth core flame from the very beginning. Bei Xing and Bei Chong reacted immediately, but they didn't have time to think too much. They immediately attacked. Xiu! Xiu! The two sword rays slashed out at the same time, attacking Yixian. Haha, goodbye. Yixian laughed and kept the strange flame lantern into the devouring space. Then, his eyes flashed and he entered the void gate. Huff huff! Two streaks of sword radiance pierced through the air, but the void gate had already closed, and the building was empty. The two brothers were stunned. No matter how they thought about it, they never expected such an ending. Not only did Yixian know about the eternal earth core fire, but he also hid his strength. His true strength was actually at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. Even the two of them, who were at the 8th level of the fragmentation realm, couldn't sense it. Most importantly, Yixian actually used the strange flame lantern. Even Million Treasure City didn't have such a thing. Damn it! Find it! We must find it! Bei Xing reacted and cursed angrily. The eternal earth core fire was extremely precious. Even Nirvana realm experts would fight for it. It was also their father's hope of breaking through to the Nirvana realm. Now the eternal earth core fire was taken away right under their noses. The two of them were so angry that they wanted to massacre a city to vent their anger. Just as Bei Xing and Bei Chong were enraged, Yixian had already broken through the void and left Million Treasure Alliance's territory. At this moment he was near the Hu clan. Haha, the eternal earth core fire. Ranked 93rd on the strange flame list. In a mountain range, Yixian was holding the strange flame lantern that contained the eternal earth core fire. He couldn't help but laugh. Beside him were two figures. Heavens, this old man can actually see a strange flame in this life. I can die without regrets. The old tree was extremely surprised. Old tree, is the eternal earth core fire useful to you? Yixian asked while holding the strange flame lantern. Yes, the eternal earth core fire was formed underground. Even its light is useful to me. The old tree nodded. The eternal earth core fire was a very practical strange flame. Its light could temper one's physique and promote the growth of plants. It could even be used to forge weapons. There were many other effects. Yixian was really lucky to be able to obtain the eternal earth core fire this time. Alright, I'll half open the strange flame lantern first to test its effect. Yixian nodded and said. He gently touched the strange flame lantern. Then the entire lantern suddenly opened and the flame spread out. However, the current flame was probably only 1/10 of the previous flame. This was because Yixian had only opened 1/10 of the strange flame lantern. The remaining 90% of the flame was blocked by a thin layer of cloth outside the strange flame lantern. Oh, this is the eternal earth core fire. It's so comfortable. This old man feels like he's going to heaven. Old tree couldn't help but sigh. At the same time, he felt that the blood in his body that had yet to be refined was starting to be absorbed faster. Not only that, Yixian also felt that his body was undergoing some changes. The strange flame's light could temper one's physique and heal some hidden injuries. However, Yixian originally had the divine tree of life's bloodline. Naturally, he wouldn't have any hidden injuries. At the same time, he saw that his lifespan was slowly increasing on the panel. If he stayed beside the strange flame all the time, his lifespan would increase instead of decreasing. After all, this flame was only 1/10 of the original flame. Of course, the strange flame's effect would become weaker as time passed. With my current physique, I can't even get close to the eternal earth core fire, let alone fuse with it. I heard that if someone was able to fuse with the eternal earth core fire, their lifespan would increase by at least 50 years. Yi Xian thought in his heart. When he first obtained the eternal earth core fire, he tried to devour it using a special method. However, it was notified that unable to devour. Even normal devouring wouldn't work, so he gave up. Old tree, I'll leave the eternal earth core fire to you first. I'll keep it in the planting space. When my physique reaches a certain level, I'll slowly open it. Yi Xian said to Old Tree. No problem, this old man will take good care of it. Old Tree nodded. Then, Yi Xian threw the strange flame lantern into the planting space. He also kept the old tree and Megatron inside. Chapter 1342. Now Bei Xing and Bei Chong are probably looking for me everywhere. I have to change my appearance and go to Wanbao City to investigate. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes, and his expression changed again. He was too happy to obtain the eternal earth core fire. At the same time, he wanted to avoid any accidents, so he left immediately. Otherwise, he would have fought with Bei Xing and Bei Chong. However, before he left, he used his mind's eye to control Bei Lu, who was watching the battle from afar. Bei Lu is at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, and his surname is Bei. He probably has some influence in the Bei family. It shouldn't be a problem to ask him about the mysterious underworld duo demons. Yi Xian thought to himself and continued on his way. When he entered Wanbao Alliance, he was only at the 3rd level of the fragmentation realm. Now that he was at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm, he estimated that he could reach Wanbao City in 2 hours at most if he used shadow steps. After obtaining the eternal earth core fire, he had heard 2 system notifications in the past 2 hours. Ding! Luo Luo has broken through. She is currently at the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. Ding! Devil Tree Battle Soldier has broken through. She is currently at the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. Luo Luo had already broken through to the 4th level of the fragmentation realm when she mutated. She was at the peak of the 4th level of the fragmentation realm. She went into seclusion to break through to the 5th level of the fragmentation realm. After the old tree obtained the eternal earth core fire, the speed at which it refined Yi Xian's blood increased by several times. It was normal for it to break through. As for Wei Zhentian, it was constantly being tempered by the eternal earth core fire. Although it was still at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm, it was tougher than before. With Yi Xian's strength, he didn't need to take a detour. After entering Wanbao Alliance, he headed straight for Wanbao City. During this time, he didn't encounter the 2 patriarchs of Wanbao City's City Lord Mansion. However, he hoped to meet them again because with his strength, he didn't need to be afraid of them. 2 hours later, Yi Xian successfully arrived at Wanbao City. Previously, when he had entered the Void Gate, he had taken control of Northflow and given him orders through space. Yi Xian stopped in his tracks. He saw that Bei Lu was already waiting in front of Wanbao City's city gate. Immediately, Northflow flew over at high speed. Greetings, Master. Northflow said respectfully. What's your relationship with those 2 8th-stage fragmentation realm martial artists? Yi Xian went straight to the point. Of the 2 people just now, one is my grandfather, the other is my eldest grandfather. Bei Lu answered directly. Grandfather, first grandfather? Upon hearing this, Yi Xian instantly understood. Bei Lu was Bei Chang's grandson, while Bei Xing was Bei Chang's eldest brother. Thus, he was Bei Lu's eldest grandfather. All right. Then let me ask you, where are they now? Yi Xian continued to ask. Just now, after Master left, the treasure-seeking sex team arrived. Right now they're searching that area. They asked me to come back and report to them. At the same time, they're also looking for Master. Bei Lu replied. The eternal earth core fire had already been collected by him. Now that he had changed his appearance, the other party would definitely not expect him to come to the Million Treasure City. Since that was the case, it was time to get down to business. Then let me ask you again. Have you seen this Fox Clansman? He's around the 4th stage of the fragmentation realm. Yi Xian took out a portrait. It was Hu Lai's father, Hu Tai. No, I haven't. Bei Lu shook his head. What about them? Yi Xian took out another 2 portraits. They were the siblings, Nalin Bing and Nalin Jia. This time, Bei Lu nodded and said, These two appeared in my city lord's mansion before. I don't know if they're still there now. Upon hearing this, Yi Xian could not help but raise his eyebrows. If the Xianming duo demons were still in the city lord's mansion, that would be great. He could finally fulfill his promise to Imo Shui. All right, bring me to the city lord's mansion, Yi Xian said after he took out the items in Bei Lu's interspatial ring. Yes. Bei Lu nodded and immediately brought Yi Xian into the Million Treasure City. Along the way, Yi Xian asked Bei Lu about the city lord's mansion, such as how many experts were in the city lord's mansion. There's another 9th stage fragmentation realm expert. After hearing this, Yi Xian could not help but narrow his eyes. With his current realm, he did not need to be afraid of 9th stage fragmentation realm experts. If he could not beat them, he could still run away. As long as he broke through again, killing 9th stage fragmentation realm experts would be a piece of cake. Soon Bei Lu brought Yi Xian to the city lord's mansion. The city lord of Million Treasure City was Bei Lu's cousin, who was also at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. Before Yi Xian entered the city lord's mansion, he felt waves of powerful auras. That's strange. There's only one 8th stage fragmentation realm expert in the city lord's mansion. Where's your 9th stage fragmentation realm ancestor? Yi Xian asked in surprise. The ancestor should know about the eternal earth core fire. Maybe he went out to search for it, Bei Lu replied. Hearing this, Yi Xian nodded slightly. That's right. This time the eternal earth core fire appeared. It was normal for him to go out personally. However, the most important thing was that Yi Xian did not find Nailin Bing and Nailin Jie's auras. That's strange. Are they not in the city lord's mansion and have already left? Yi Xian asked around. Master, I'll ask my third grandfather, Bei Lu said. The third grandfather he mentioned was the city lord of Million Treasure City, Bei Feng's grandfather. He was also the only 8th stage fragmentation realm expert in the Bei family. Go. Yi Xian nodded. After Bei Lu left, he strolled around the city lord's mansion alone. Although he said that he was strolling, there were still a few 7th stage fragmentation realm experts in the city lord's mansion. He was going to make some extra money. Almost all the experts in the city lord's mansion had been sent out to search. There were less than 1/5 of the experts in the city lord's mansion. Yi Xian only controlled 3 7th stage fragmentation realm experts. Then, he returned to Bei Lu's residence. Master, my third grandfather said that the ancestor personally escorted the two people away, Bei Lu said. Ancestor? Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. There were a few ancestors in the Bei family, but the most senior was the first city lord of Million Treasure City, Bei Yang. Bei Yang was at the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm. He was the father of Bei Xing, Bei Chong, and Bei Lu's third grandfather. That's strange. Tomorrow is great-grandfather's death anniversary. Why would he leave? Bei Lu said in astonishment. He did not know about the Xianming duo demon, so it was understandable. Then he suddenly took out a piece of paper from his universe ring and handed it to Yi Xian. He said, Third grandfather gave this to me. According to my great-grandfather, it was left behind by an expert, but no one in the Bei family noticed anything. A piece of paper? Yi Xian took the piece of paper and looked at it. He did not find anything, but he scanned it with his eye of revelation and found a trace of strange energy left on it. This energy was not true qi. Chapter 1343. A will of charm was left on this piece of paper. Luo Luo exclaimed in shock after seeing this. Will of charm. Yi Xian's heart trembled when he heard this. He had heard of the will of death and will of reincarnation, and now there was the will of charm. The will of charm is a very clever way to use the eye of charm. After the user leaves a trace of the will of charm on this piece of paper, if someone sees this piece of paper, they will complete a certain mission. Luo Luo replied. After seeing it, they will complete a mission. Is this another type of charm? Yi Xian asked with a frown. Yes, but it's only effective once. Luo Luo nodded and replied. I reckon that a Fox Clan expert issued these pieces of paper with the will of charm, and then began to escort the Xianming duo to the higher-ups. I see. This Fox Clan expert should be related to the Xianming duo in their past life. But why didn't he come personally? How did this piece of paper appear? Yi Xian asked curiously. Maybe it's because the Xianming duo had too many enemies in their past life. If they were discovered, they would die, so this Fox Clan expert couldn't appear. As for these pieces of paper, I don't know. After all, the opponent is a rebirth realm expert. There are many methods that we can't understand. My inherited memories haven't been fully unlocked yet, Luo said helplessly. Yixian fell silent after hearing this. He reckoned that this Fox Clan expert had some sort of connection with the underworld. Since the Xianming duo left first, he naturally had to continue chasing after them. However, before that, he had to find out where the Bei clan's ancestor, Bei Yang, went. Third grandfather didn't tell me where my great-grandfather went. Right now, he's personally cleaning my great-grandfather's tomb, Bei Lu said. Bring me there, Yixian said with a serious expression. Bei Lu's third grandfather was an expert at the 8th level of the fragmentation realm. However, as long as Bei Lu launched a sneak attack, Yixian would be able to control him. At that time, Yixian would know where the Bei clan's ancestor, Bei Yang, had sent the mysterious underworld twin fiends. After that, Bei Lu brought Yixian to his great-grandfather's tomb. This tomb was under the city lord's manor of Million Treasures City. However, only members of the Bei family could enter the tomb. Yixian followed Bei Lu into the tomb. This tomb was very big because there was not only one person buried here, but all the Bei family members who had died in battle were buried here. Bei Lu led Yixian deeper into the tomb and finally arrived in front of a large tomb. Third grandfather, Bei Lu shouted respectfully. Why are you here again? Don't you know I'm busy? An old voice came from inside. Third grandpa, I have something important to report, Bei Lu shouted. As soon as he said that, the door to the tomb opened with a bang. Bei Lu led Yixian into the tomb. There was only a gray-robed old man in the tomb. He was sweeping the floor with a broom. He was Bei Lu's third grandfather, Bei Sheng. Although Bei Sheng could use his all-creation strength to clean the tomb, he wanted to remember his mother, so he cleaned it himself. When he saw Yixian behind Bei Lu, he was furious and said, "You brat, why did you bring an outsider into the tomb? Have you forgotten the ancestral rules set by your great-grandfather? Only members of the Bei family could enter this tomb. Outsiders were not allowed. For so many years no one had broken the rule. Today Bei Lu actually brought an outsider in. What was he doing? Third grandfather, please calm down." Bei Lu took a big stride forward and whispered a few words in Bei Sheng's ear. Bei Sheng's expression changed immediately. He cried out in surprise. What? News of the eternal earth core fire? Yes, third grandfather. He knows the location of the eternal earth core fire. Bei Lu nodded. Ta-ta-ta. Bei Sheng turned into a gust of wind and arrived in front of Yixian in an instant. He said, "Do you really know the location of the eternal earth core fire?" Just now he wanted to kill Yixian, but when he heard that Yixian knew the location of the eternal earth core fire, he immediately changed his attitude. It was obvious that the eternal earth core fire was more important at this moment. After all, rules were set by humans. It was not a big deal to break them occasionally. Yes, I know. Yixian nodded and said solemnly, "Where is the eternal earth core fire? As long as you tell me, I'll reward you handsomely," Bei Sheng said excitedly. Not to mention that the eternal earth core fire could be used for Bei Yang's breakthrough. They could also use it to increase their lifespan. Naturally, he wanted to obtain it. Yixian glanced at Bei Lu, and then took out something from the devouring space. This was the unusual flame lantern. "The eternal earth core fire that you're looking for is here," Yixian said slowly. What? Bei Sheng was shocked. He could feel the vitality of the flame and was completely speechless. The Bei family had sent out hundreds of experts to search, including 2 LV8 experts of the fragmentation realm. However, what they were looking for was right in front of Bei Sheng at this moment. However, just as Bei Sheng was shocked, Yixian and Bei Lu attacked at the same time. "Eye of Glory! Sky Frost Fist!" Yixian's hair suddenly turned golden. He directly punched Bei Sheng's abdomen. Instantly, the extremely cold air froze Bei Sheng's abdomen. Furthermore, the back of Bei Sheng's head was also hit by Bei Lu. He almost fainted. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yixian hurriedly used his Eye of the Heart. Ding! Control failed. A system notification sounded. If he was from the Fox clan, Yixian would definitely not be able to control him. However, Bei Shang was only a human who had lived for hundreds of years. Ding! Control succeeded. The Eye of the Heart specialized in attacking the flaws in one's soul. Coupled with the fact that Bei Shang was ambushed and was too shocked, he was subdued by Yi Xian in just 2 tries. After controlling him, Yi Xian directly threw a blood bottle over and asked at the same time, "Where did your father Bei Yang bring those 2 people to?" "I'm not sure. My father didn't say. I only know that he went to the north." Bei Shang shook his head. "You're not sure?" Yi Xian wanted to faint. It wasn't easy for him to find this place. Was he going to lose track of the mysterious underworld duo again? "Give me the most complete map you have," Yi Xian said to Bei Shang. "Yes." Bei Shang didn't say anything else and took out the map. Yi Xian glanced at it and copied the map into his mind. There were indeed a few big forces in the north of the 10,000 Treasures Alliance. He didn't know where the ancestor of the Bei family, Bei Yang, went. "Alright, let's not talk about this for now." Yi Xian withdrew his thoughts and said, "Where's the Bei family's treasury?" Chapter 1344. Bei Shang naturally understood what Yi Xian meant and said, "This. My Bei family just bought a large number of heavenly and earthly treasures a while ago for the Bei family's disciples and consecrators to cultivate. Furthermore, the real things are all with my 2 brothers and father." Yi Xian raised an eyebrow when he heard this. Bei Shang was only a manager of the clan, and he had just broken through to the 8th tier of the fragmentation realm. Meanwhile, his older brothers, Bei Xing and Bei Chang, were the pillars of the clan. In other words, they were the people who were overseeing the clan. As such, they had to ensure their strength. Naturally, they would need a large amount of natural treasures. "Then your father is in seclusion all year round?" Yi Xian asked again. "Yes. Apart from seclusion, my father would come to my mother's tomb to sit. It's the one inside. No one is allowed to enter except for my father." Bei Shang nodded. "Is that so?" Yi Xian's eyes lit up. The one inside should be the tomb where Bei Shang's mother's body was kept. However, there was something fishy about Bei Yang not allowing anyone to enter. "Don't come in. I'll go in and take a look," Yi Xian said and walked in. Bei Shang and Bei Lu were waiting outside. Bam! The stone door closed, and Yi Xian entered the last secret chamber of the Bei family. Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. There were not many things in this secret chamber. There was a coffin in the innermost part, and there were many portraits of the tomb's owner hanging around it. There were also some books. Why are there books? Yi Xian walked over in surprise and glanced around. He was shocked by what he saw. Bei Yang and his wife are actually a pair of siblings? Yi Xian widened his eyes in disbelief. Was the world in chaos? The Xianming duo were also siblings, both in his previous life and current life. Bei Yang and his wife, Bei Lin, were also siblings. They were married and had 3 children. However, what shocked Yi Xian even more was what happened next. Bei Yang, an outer disciple of the Yinyang Temple. Bei Lin, an outer disciple of the Yinyang Temple. Seeing this, Yi Xian was suddenly stunned. He had finally found a clue about the Yinyang Sacred Hall that he had been searching for. Bei Yang and his wife, Bei Lin, had become outer sect disciples of the Yinyang Sacred Hall 100 years ago due to their good aptitude. Furthermore, they had also successfully cultivated the Saint Yinyang chant and merged into one. They were only 16 years old at the time. However, the 2 siblings violated the taboo of the Yinyang Saint technique, so they suddenly disintegrated and were chased out of the Yinyang Saint Palace. And the reason for their disintegration was that they had accidentally been poisoned by the aphrodisiac. These books were actually written by Bei Yang. They recorded what had happened in the past few years. This allowed Yi Xian to gain a basic understanding of the Yinyang Temple. The Yinyang people in the Yinyang Temple would disintegrate as long as they violated a taboo. There were many ways to disintegrate, such as having sex with someone or thinking obscene things. The 2 siblings were accidentally poisoned by the aphrodisiac, which led to their disintegration. After that, they were unable to successfully reunite and were finally expelled from the sect. Of course, the most important thing was that the 2 siblings had poisoned themselves with the aphrodisiac. After being expelled from the Yinyang Temple, they married and lived together. Then they established the Bei family. Even the 3 brothers, Bei Xing, Bei Chang, and Bei Shang, probably didn't know that Bei Yang and Bei Lin were biological siblings. They would never have thought that their own mother was actually their own aunt. Too scary, the Yinyang Temple is too scary. Yixian couldn't help but swallow his saliva. 2 years ago, Adjudicator Song and Song Suijing were kidnapped by the Yinyang Patriarch in the Eastern continent. Now that 2 years had passed, he didn't know how they were doing. Although Elder Tianshi said that if the Yinyang Temple wanted to merge, their souls had to be on the same frequency. If 2 people resisted, it would generally not succeed. However, there were exceptions to everything. Yixian didn't want to see Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song successfully fused and become Yinyang people when he saw them. He would never allow such a thing to happen. Yinyang Patriarch Aleph *CKU. Yixian couldn't help but curse the Yinyang Patriarch hundreds of times in his heart. If thoughts could kill, the Yinyang Patriarch would have died a billion times over. However, the most precious thing here was a peculiar ability. Bewitching art. This was the name of this ability. However, it seemed to be an illusion ability. This is an illusion created by Bei Yang and Bei Lin. It's specially designed to deal with the Yinyang people of the Yinyang Temple. Yixian's eyes lit up. The bewitching art was an illusion that could cause the victim to fall into an erotic dream. This was an illusion created by Bei Yang and Bei Lin after they were expelled from the Yinyang Temple. They originally wanted to use it to deal with the Yinyang Temple, but due to their low cultivation level they didn't try it out. However, this allowed Yixian to take advantage of it. Ding, the bewitching art has been copied successfully. Learn. Yes. Yixian immediately learned this illusion ability. He would be enemies with the Yinyang Temple in the future, and it would come in handy when the time came. Haha. Yinyang Patriarch, watch me destroy your Yinyang Temple. Yixian's eyes lit up. If the Yinyang people that had successfully fused disintegrated, they would not be able to fuse again. Yixian wanted to use this bewitching art to destroy the Yinyang Temple. The bewitching art was related to the strength of one's soul. Yixian's soul was already stronger than others of the same cultivation level, so he might be able to disintegrate the Yinyang Patriarch in the future. That would be great. Yixian searched the secret room and only found 2 identity tokens, which belonged to Bei Yang and Bei Lin. Other than that, there was nothing else. I'm pretty lucky this time. I found a clue about the Yinyang Temple and learned a way to deal with the Yinyang people. Once these Yinyang people disintegrate, their vitality will be greatly damaged and their battle strength will be reduced. This is very useful for me. Yixian thought to himself. Unfortunately, he did not find the location of the Yinyang Temple. Moreover, this Yinyang Temple seemed to be just a subsidiary temple, not the main temple. Yixian left Bei Lin's tomb and asked directly, Bei Sheng, do you know where your father came from to the Thousand Treasures Alliance? My father only said that he came from the north. I don't know where exactly. Bei Sheng shook his head. Then do you know your mother's name? Yixian asked again. Lin. Bei Sheng replied. Hearing this name, Yixian's eyes flickered. It seemed that Bei Yang had concealed his wife's name to prevent others from gossiping. Now that Yixian had found a clue about the Yinyang Temple, he should be able to find it if he headed north. However, the Yinyang Temple was not a small faction. Bei Yang was already in the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm, but he could not use the bewitching art to take revenge. Yixian was now in the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm, so he had to improve his cultivation level. Chapter 1345. The eternal earth core fire that the Bei family and treasure-seeking sect have been searching for is with me. As long as I act as bait, I won't be able to raise my cultivation level. Yixian narrowed his eyes and left the city lord's mansion. This time he was prepared to return to that place. As long as the 9th stage fragmentation realm martial artist from treasure-seeking sect didn't come, everything would be fine. Of course, even if he did come, Yixian wasn't afraid of him. He was just a 9th stage fragmentation realm martial artist, so what? At that moment, Yixian returned to his appearance when he snatched the eternal earth core fire. Then, he headed to the magma world. Treasure-seeking sect didn't know, but he knew that everyone in Million Treasure City had his portrait. As long as he showed up, he would become a thorn in everyone's side. About half an hour later, he arrived at the place that day. There weren't many people searching here. At least Yixian didn't meet anyone. Ding! Devil Tree Battle Soldier broke through. Currently at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. Suddenly, a system notification sounded. After the old tree was accelerated by the eternal earth core fire, it actually broke through again in just a few hours. As expected of a strange fire. If the old tree joined forces with Wei Jintian, it shouldn't be a problem to deal with an 8th stage fragmentation realm martial artist. The eternal earth core fire was the one that boosted the old tree the most, followed by Wei Jintian, and then Yixian and Luo Luo. However, although Luo Luo was only at the 5th stage of the fragmentation realm, after her mutation, her strength was still above the old tree and Wei Jintian. It wouldn't be a problem for her to fight someone 3 levels higher. Come on, whoever comes will die. Yixian narrowed his eyes and took out an iron rod from his universe ring. It was Million Treasure City's signal flare. What he wanted to do now was to be the bait himself. This signal flare wasn't made of gunpowder. Instead, it was compressed true qi in this iron rod. However, it wasn't very powerful and was only used for communication. Whoosh! A beam of flame soared into the sky and exploded high up in the sky. The signal flare had a large range. If the people around saw this signal, they should quickly rush over. Sure enough, in less than 5 minutes, a person rushed over. It was a martial artist at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. However, this martial artist at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm was not from Million Treasure City. He was actually an elder of the treasure-seeking sect. Moreover, he was Feng Qi, who was present at that time. He used the signal flare of Million Treasure City, but he attracted the people of treasure-seeking sect. Yixian was a little helpless, but this didn't matter to him. After all, the people who came were here to give him benefits. It's actually this brat. The 7th level fragmentation realm martial practitioner raised an eyebrow when he saw Yixian. At that time, he was also present. He personally saw Yixian use the strange flame lantern to steal the eternal earth core flame. So at this moment, his feelings could no longer be described with words. The eternal earth core fire was his. However, just as he was about to lean towards Yixian, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. Qin Lai, who was at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, was only 1 level higher than Yixian, who was at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. Yixian's Eye of the Soul had dealt him a huge amount of damage. Ding! Control successful. After using the Eye of the Soul twice, Yixian successfully controlled Feng Qi. Feng Qi rushed over and threw the interspatial ring to Yixian without saying anything. In just a few minutes, Yixian obtained a 7th level fragmentation realm interspatial ring, which was considered good. Alright, I'll be here. You go around and inform them of my location, Yixian said to Feng Qi. Yes. Feng Qi nodded respectfully and left immediately. At this moment, Yixian was like a lanternfish, luring small fish to come closer and then hunting them. As the saying went, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. However, at this moment, Yixian was both the cicada and the oriole. When he left Million Treasure City, Yixian took a large number of signal flares, and after Feng Qi left, he released another one. A few minutes later, a few more people approached, but they were all at the 6th level of the fragmentation realm. These people were handed over to Luo Luo to charm, and then let them leave to spread the news. Then, more people came to deliver benefits one after another. They came one after another. Yixian stood there and waited, his cultivation base rising continuously. About half an hour later, someone finally arrived who sounded like a human being. This person was wearing the treasure hunting sect's uniform and had a powerful aura. He was at the 8th level of the fragmentation realm. Behind him was the treasure hunting sect's elder Feng Qi, who had been controlled by Yixian just now. Finally, the main character is here. Yixian's eyes narrowed. The middle-aged man looked at Yixian and asked in a low voice, Feng Qi, is this the person you were talking about? Yes, sect leader. Feng Qi nodded. Good. After hearing this answer, the middle-aged man did not say anything and directly attacked. However, when he rushed out, the sound of wind suddenly appeared. Bam! A sword energy accurately struck his back, and the person who ambushed him happened to be Feng Qi, who had just answered his question. Feng Qi, you? The sect leader of treasure hunting sect widened his eyes in shock. He obviously did not expect Feng Qi to ambush him. Why was that? In the next moment he realized what had happened. Previously, Feng Qi had found him and said that he had found a clue to the eternal earth core fire, and then brought him here. Now it seemed that Feng Qi had joined forces with the other party. This ambush had severely injured him, and the meridians on his back were broken. The flow of his true qi was very unnatural. As a result, it would be much easier for Yixian to deal with him. The sect leader of treasure hunting sect, huh? Looks like he has a lot of good stuff. Yixian could not help but smirk as he turned into a stream of light and rushed out. Unparalleled flame dragon slash. Killing intent explosion. A golden flame dragon roared out. The sect leader of treasure hunting sect could not dodge this attack because he was ambushed by Feng Qi, and was instantly engulfed. However, he was still 2 realms higher than Yixian, so he was able to block it. However, the unparalleled flame dragon slash had always been a feint, and the real killing move was yet to come. Eye of Destruction. Rip. The sect leader of treasure hunting sect was directly cut in half. His upper and lower halves were instantly dissected, but this was not enough to kill him. However, one should not forget that there was still a traitor. Rip. Feng Qi directly pierced through the head of the treasure hunting sect master. The tip of the sword came out from the center of his brows. Before blood could flow out, Feng Qi pulled out the sword and sent it flying again, sending the head of the treasure hunting sect master flying. Sometimes a pierced head might not kill, but if the head was cut off, unless it was a freak like Yixian, most people would die. The sect leader of treasure hunting sect was dead. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. Chapter 1346. After devouring so many corpses, the Devourer Beast's experience had increased to 90%. Yixian estimated that the Devourer Beast would evolve into a mid-level Devourer Beast in a few days' time. If he killed it and devoured its corpse, he would obtain 2 Devourer points. At that time he would have 3 Devourer points, which would greatly increase Yixian's combat power. Besides, ever since he merged the God-slaying bloodline, he had activated the bloodline fusion system. As long as he had 3 Devourer points, he could merge the 2 auxiliary bloodlines to create a stronger auxiliary bloodline. He wondered what effect the new auxiliary bloodline would have after merging the 2 auxiliary bloodlines. Of course, 3 Devourer points were not enough if he wanted to merge the 2 bloodlines. Speaking of which, Yixian's goal this time was to break through to the 7th level of the fragmentation realm before heading north. The 8th level of the fragmentation realm's universe ring alone was not enough for him to break through. Feng Qi, other than your sect leader, are there any 8th level experts of the fragmentation realm? Yixian asked. Yes, the Supreme Elder is here as well. Feng Qi nodded. Good, then call him here as well. Yixian nodded. Yes. Feng Qi replied and left immediately. Yixian continued to wait. As the benefits continued to arrive, Yixian's cultivation base continued to improve. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. Currently at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm. Wei Zhentian's improvement speed was the fastest among Yixian's 4. Coupled with the tempering of the eternal earth core fire, his strength continued to improve as well. An hour later, another heavyweight expert had arrived. It was the Beichong from back then. Kid, it's you. Beichong looked at Yixian in shock. That's right, it's me. Yixian nodded slightly and said, The eternal earth core fire is with me. If you want it, you'll have to kill me. The eternal earth core fire. Beichong was furious when he heard the name. A few hours ago he had personally witnessed the eternal earth core fire being taken away by Yixian using the heavenly flame lantern. After searching for a few hours he finally found Yixian. But why was Yixian so calm at this moment? Could it be that there was an ambush nearby? That's impossible. Even a 9th level fragmentation realm expert might not be able to ambush me with my current realm. There's clearly no one else around. Beichong subconsciously thought about it. Seeing that the other party didn't move, Yixian also mocked, 8th stage of the fragmentation realm. You're actually afraid of me, a 6th stage fragmentation realm martial artist. You're not a paper tiger, are you? What did you say? Beichong's eyes flashed. Even his beard was fluttering in anger. Yixian actually called him a paper tiger. How could he tolerate this? I said, You are paper tiger. Yixian enunciated each word clearly. Wah, I'm going to skin you alive. Beichong was instantly enraged as he charged towards Yixian. Good timing. The corners of Yixian's mouth curled up slightly as he instantly cloned himself. Although it was a lava hell beneath his feet, Yixian had already condensed a floating island with the all creation's force. As long as he stepped on land, his speed would be twice as fast as before. If he cloned himself, it would be enough to deal with an 8th-stage fragmentation realm martial artist. As such, it was naturally better to use the Ice and Fire Twin Dragon sword array. A puppet? Seeing Yixian split into two, Beichong was stunned for a moment before he immediately reacted. But before he pounced, Yixian had already used his mind's eye on him. "Good boy, you even know how to use a soul attack," Beichong shouted angrily as he directly slashed with his sword. Whoosh! The sword ray pierced through the air and instantly split the floating island beneath Yixian's feet into two. But in the next moment, Yixian used the all creation's force to reconnect it. Ice and Fire Twin Dragon sword array, Twin Dragon's roar. The two Yixian attacked together, and the two heavenly dragon phantoms merged into one. They opened their bloody mouths and spat out a mouthful of dragon's breath. This attack was several times more powerful than the flame dragon's unparalleled slash. Even Beichong, who was at the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm, could not block it. How is this possible? How can this boy release such a powerful attack? Beichong could not believe it. His figure flashed and brushed past the Ice and Fire Dragon's breath. If he had been a little slower, he would probably have turned into ashes. This attack had already surpassed the Fire Devil Lord's fireball attack, which shocked Beichong greatly. However, this was not Yixian's most powerful attack. If I consume both the Frozen Sky Pill and the Burning Sky Pill at once, the power of the Twin Dragon's roar will at least double. Even a 9th-stage fragmentation realm expert would probably die if they were hit. Yixian thought in his heart. However, he was afraid that if he consumed the Frozen Sky Pill, it would be effective on his clone as well. In that case, he could not consume the Frozen Sky Pill and the Burning Sky Pill together. If there was a chance in the future, he would exchange for 2 pills to try. No, rather than in the future, he might as well try it today. Ding! Burning Sky Pill successfully exchanged. Ding! Freezing Sky Pill successfully exchanged. These 2 6th-stage fragmentation realm pills cost almost half of Yixian's super engulfment crystal, which made Yixian feel the pinch. However, if he succeeded, then his combat strength would be raised to another level. Ding! Burning Sky Pill successfully swallowed. Yixian first tried the Burning Sky Pill. He used his original body to swallow it, but what surprised him was that only his original body had the effect of the Burning Sky Pill. Haha, it's effective as expected. Yixian laughed loudly in his heart and let his clone swallow the Frozen Sky Pill. Ding! Freezing Sky Pill successfully swallowed. His original body had Flame Attribute True Qi, while his clone had Ice Attribute True Qi. Both of them passively increased the power of the dual dragon roar. Yixian's eyes flickered, and he suddenly realized that the Ice Dragon and Flame Dragon silhouettes had more than doubled in size. Come, let me test its power. Ice and Fire Dual Dragon Sword Array, Dual Dragon Roar. The Ice Dragon and Flame Dragon silhouettes merged into one, opened their mouths, and spat out another dragon breath of ice and fire. However, the dragon breath of ice and fire this time was more than twice as strong as before, even reaching 3 times as strong. The attack range of this attack was much larger, and it instantly engulfed the wide-eyed Beichong. Almost at the same time, Yixian heard a system notification sound. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. Instant kill. Beichong, who was at the 8th stage of the fragmentation realm, was actually instantly killed by Yixian. Even a 9th stage fragmentation realm expert would be severely injured if not killed by this attack, let alone him. Haha, not only has the attack range increased, even the power has increased. I have another trump card. Yixian was extremely excited. Chapter 1347. Ice and fire were incompatible. If they were to combine, who knew what would happen? If they wanted to merge, they would have to remove one of the effects first. Besides, Yixian did not know if the Eye of Glory would conceal the effects of the Burning Sky Pill or the Freezing Sky Pill. Therefore, he wanted to test it when the effects of the 2 pills were about to reach an hour. If the Eye of Glory did not conceal the effects, then its power might increase by another level. After Beichong died, Yixian rushed over to take his universe ring and devoured the things inside. I'm about to break through. One more and I'll be done. Yixian narrowed his eyes. He could kill an 8th-stage fragmentation realm martial artist instantly when he was at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. If he broke through to the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm, he should be able to kill a 9th-stage fragmentation realm martial artist instantly. At that time, he would be almost invincible in the fragmentation realm, unless the enemy had a Nirvana divine ability. There was still an hour left before the burning sky pill, and the freezing sky pill took effect. Yi Xian continued to wait here, hoping to encounter an 8th-stage fragmentation realm martial artist in the next hour, such as Bei family's Bei Xing or treasure-seeking sect's Grand Supreme Elder. At this moment, he had more than 10 subordinates wandering around the periphery. If these 2 people were still searching, they should come over. The person who delivered the benefits was still continuing. In less than half an hour, Yi Xian controlled another 4 martial artists at the 7th level of the fragmentation realm, including Tuoba Yi. Even if there were no 8th-stage fragmentation realm martial artists, Yi Xian was confident that he could break through to the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm within an hour. However, 50 minutes after he took the burning sky pill and the freezing sky pill, another martial artist finally came. This time it was Bei family's Bei Xing. After seeing Bei Xing with the Eye of Revelation, Yi Xian did not say anything and directly attacked. "Kid, where's the eternal earth core fire?" Bei Xing asked tentatively. At the same time, he casually defeated Yi Xian's probing attack. "Are you talking about this?" Yi Xian took out the eternal earth core fire from the planting space. The fire immediately spread and shone on Bei Xing's face. Eternal earth core fire? Bei Xing's eyes flashed with greed. He didn't expect Yi Xian to have the eternal earth core fire. He originally thought that Yi Xian had already hidden the eternal earth core fire, but he never thought that he would still have it on him. This time even the heavens were helping him. "Brat, I can overlook the fact that you stole the eternal earth core fire. As long as you give it to me, I will spare your life," Bei Xing said. "Spare my life?" Yi Xian raised an eyebrow and shook his head. "You won't spare me." "I will. I, Bei Xing, am a man of my word. As long as you are willing to hand it over and not force my hand, I will let you go." Bei Xing was still a little wary of Yi Xian's background, so he made this offer. "Oh, then after you see this, will you still let me live?" Yi Xian smirked and took something out of the devouring space. It was a sword, but it was only a 4th-grade elemental artifact. However, Bei Xing was very familiar with this weapon because it belonged to his younger brother, Bei Chang. He had been using it for more than 10 years. "Bei Chang's sword?" Bei Xing recognized it at first glance and exclaimed, "Impossible! How did you get Bei Chang's weapon? If I said that he was already killed by me and turned into ashes, would you believe me?" Yi Xian said with an indifferent expression. "How is that possible?" Bei Xing clearly didn't believe him. "You are only at the 6th stage of the fragmentation realm. How did you kill Bei Chang?" "Not only can I kill Bei Chang, but I can also kill you. Would you believe me?" Yi Xian said. Now, Bei Xing was successfully infuriated by Yi Xian. Since Yi Xian didn't know how to appreciate his kindness, he would teach Yi Xian a lesson. Whoosh! Bei Xing immediately turned into a ray of light and charged toward Yi Xian. He was very fast and arrived in front of the 2 Yi Xian in the blink of an eye. Since he thought that one of the 2 Yi Xian was a puppet, he had to test which one was the real Yi Xian. Unfortunately, he didn't know that both of them were Yi Xian's real body. "You are a stepping stone for my breakthrough. Die!" The 2 Yi Xian's eyes flickered. Ice and Fire Dual Dragon Sword Array. Dual Dragon Roar. The 2 heavenly dragon silhouettes merged into one. Boom! A dragon's breath erupted. In front of this dragon's breath, Bei Xing was like an ant. At this moment he finally believed that Yi Xian had the ability to kill Bei Chang. At the same time he also had the ability to kill him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The thick dragon's breath of ice and fire pierced through the air. Bei Xing broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately he dodged quickly. Otherwise he would have died from this attack. When he came to his senses, he found that his left arm was frozen by the ice attribute aura. He was not hit, but his arm was frozen. This was the power of the sky freezing pill. "You're lucky to have dodged this attack. But can you dodge this attack?" Yi Xian's eyes flickered. Suddenly, a slender figure came out of the dragon's breath of ice and fire and entered Bei Xing's head. This slender figure was Wei Zhentian, who was hiding in the dragon's breath of ice and fire. Ding! The host's killing intent has increased. Bei Xing had the same fate as his younger brother. He was killed instantly. This time, Yi Xian should have the cultivation resources to break through to the 7th tier of the void-breaking realm. Ding! The host has broken through. The host is currently at the 7th tier of the void-breaking realm. As expected, Yi Xian successfully broke through after devouring the things in Bei Xing's universe ring. Now, he was almost invincible in the void-breaking realm. Good, I finally broke through. Yi Xian smiled with relief. Now, only the 2 Yuan palaces in his body were not shattered. As long as these 2 Yuan palaces were shattered, he could use all his natal qi to temper his body. Then, he would be able to withstand the temperature of the exotic fire. Of course, the Eternal Earth Core Fire was ranked 93rd on the exotic fire list. It might be a little difficult. Immediately, Yi Xian used the Eye of Glory. When the golden hair and golden eyes appeared, the flame attribute in his body disappeared, and all his natal qi turned golden. As expected, the bloodline is superior to the elixir. The effect is stronger than the elixir. What a pity. If I could use the Eye of Glory, my attack power would be raised to another level. Yi Xian laughed bitterly. Then he broke through the void and left. Although he could earn more if he stayed here, he had finally found the whereabouts of the Xianming duo. Naturally, he had to hurry on his way. It took him 2 hours to break through from the 6th tier of the void-breaking realm to the 7th tier of the void-breaking realm. If he hurried on after breaking through, he could save a lot of time. Yi Xian returned to the city lord's residence in Million Treasure City and checked if the Bei family patriarch Bei Yang had returned. Chapter 1348. Fire Cloud Palace, Earth Fiend's Island, Void City. Yi Xian looked at the map he obtained from Bei Shang and muttered to himself. These were the 3 Nirvana realm factions in the north. However, he did not know which one Bei Yang had gone to. Fire Cloud Palace was northwest of the Myriad Treasure Alliance. Earth Fiend's Island was north, and Void City was northeast. Although Patriarch Bei was heading north, it did not mean that he was heading to Earth Fiend's Island. This was because he could suddenly change directions midway. Yi Xian observed carefully and realized that there were indeed dangerous areas on the way to Fire Cloud Palace and Void City. However, it was nothing to Patriarch Bei Yang, who was at the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm. The mystic netherworld duo demons are reincarnators. They might need some special items such as alchemy. If Bei Yang were to search for natural treasures midway, he might not be heading to Earth Fiend's Island. Yi Xian pondered for a moment and finally made a decision. His true body would head to Earth Fiend's Island while his avatar would head to Fire Cloud Palace. If he was lucky, Bei Yang would be in one of these 2 factions. At the same time, he would let Wei Zhentian hold down the fort in the Bei family. If Bei Yang returned to the Bei family, Yi Xian could return immediately and capture Bei Yang alive to interrogate him. With this in mind, Yi Xian immediately began his journey. In his unfused state, his true body and avatar would take about a day and a half to reach Fire Cloud Palace and Earth Fiend's Island by using shadow steps. If there was nothing in these 2 places, he would head to Void City from Earth Fiend's Island. The Myriad Treasure Alliance does not have any information on the Yin Yang Sacred Hall. However, Fire Cloud Palace, Earth Fiend's Island, and Void City all have Nirvana Realm experts. They should know where the Yin Yang Sacred Hall is. Yi Xian thought to himself. Even if they did not know, he guessed that the Yin Yang Sacred Hall was nearby. After all, Bei Yang was once a disciple of the Yin Yang Sacred Hall branch. As long as he headed north, he would definitely find clues. The time spent on the road was always dull and long. Yi Xian's avatar was the first to arrive at Fire Cloud Palace. However, Fire Cloud Palace had a Nirvana Realm expert presiding over it. Therefore, he could only use his Eye of Mind to control a few Fire Cloud Palace disciples and get them to investigate. However, there were no clues. Half a day later, Yi Xian's real body arrived at Earth Emanation's Island as well. Just as he was about to begin his investigation, Wei Zhentian suddenly sent him a message. The patriarch of the Bei family, Bei Yang, had actually returned. What? The 2 Yi Xian in Fire Cloud Palace and Earth Fiend Island trembled before they tore through the void and returned to Myriad Treasure City. Merge. The 2 Yi Xian fused together and arrived before Wei Zhentian. At that moment, there was already a person beside Wei Zhentian. It was Bei Shang. Your father is back? Yi Xian asked. Yes, father is back. However, the moment he returned, he entered seclusion, said Bei Xiang with a nod. When Yixian heard this, he felt a trace of strangeness and said, "That's impossible, right? Even if your father left a day earlier than me, he's only at the 9th level of the fragmentation realm. How could he possibly go back and forth with two people?" When he finished speaking, he was also guessing whether Bei Yang had handed the person over to the next protector halfway through the journey. Bei Xiang paused for a moment before answering. When my father returned, his aura soared. Furthermore, he looked a lot younger. I'm guessing that he has already broken through to the Nirvana realm. Nirvana realm? Upon hearing that, the corners of Yixian's mouth could not help but twitch. He had heard that Bei Yang had been stuck at the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm for several years. Now, he had suddenly broken through to the Nirvana realm? Wait, the Xianming duodemons are reincarnated beings. Although their realms are low now, they have already awakened their memories. They won't lose their experience. Perhaps Bei Yang only broke through to the Nirvana realm after receiving their guidance. Yixian's eyes suddenly lit up. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. The most precious thing about a reincarnated being was their experience. It was really easy for them to guide a 9th stage fragmentation realm warrior. Not to mention the fragmentation realm, even the Nirvana realm, longevity realm, or even the rebirth realm would not be a problem. The Bei family's patriarch, Bei Yang, was only at the 9th stage of the fragmentation realm before he left. After returning, he's suspected to be at the Nirvana realm. Alright, I'll assume that he's at the Nirvana realm. After receiving guidance from the Xianming duodemons, he broke through to the Nirvana realm. However, he hasn't consolidated his foundation yet, so he needs to enter seclusion, Yixian thought to himself. He then turned to ask Bei Xiang, "Where is your father in seclusion?" "In the one-line sky east of Million Treasures City," replied Bei Xiang. "All right." Yixian nodded. Then, he left with Wei Zhentian. In this 1 day and a half, the old tree and Luo Luo had broken through to the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. In other words, Yixian and the other 3 were already at the 7th stage of the fragmentation realm. Moreover, they had trump cards like the Infinite Returning Swords and the Berserk Python Sweep. In addition, Bei Yang had just broken through and had not consolidated his foundation yet. Therefore, Yixian might be able to fight against a Nirvana realm warrior. The one-line sky, huh? After Yixian left Million Treasure City and walked east for a while, he found a formation as expected. It must be the formation that Bei Yang had set up. Luo Luo, old tree, Wei Zhentian, our enemy this time is very powerful. We can't be careless. Yixian looked at the old figure in the formation from afar and said in a low voice, "Don't worry, young master. My current strength is not weaker than yours." Luo Luo giggled. The faith crystal had long been completely refined by her. However, with the eternal earth core fire, her speed of refining heaven and earth treasures was even faster. Therefore, she caught up within a day. Hearing this, Yixian nodded in agreement. Luo Luo had mutated into a 9-tailed beast. Under the situation of the same level, Yixian was not 100% confident that he could defeat Luo Luo. In addition to the undying old tree and Wei Zhentian, Yixian was 80% confident that he could kill Bei Yang this time. "In that case, let's go," Yixian shouted in a low voice and directly attacked. A golden flame dragon whistled out. Rumble! The formation was instantly broken, and Yixian entered. At the same time, Bei Yang, who was cultivating in seclusion in the one-line sky, suddenly opened his eyes. Bei Yang was not younger than Lu Tiangong. He was already more than 150 years old, but after breaking through to the Nirvana realm, he looked a lot younger. He looked like an old man in his 60s. His turbid eyes landed on Yixian as he asked in surprise, "Who are you?" After he returned, he had actually entered seclusion in the one-line sky. Coincidentally, there were people guarding the one-line sky, so he reported it to Bei Xiang. Therefore, he did not know about the eternal earth core fire, much less that Yixian was wanted by Million Treasure City and treasure-seeking sect. "My name is Yixian, a disciple of Fire Cloud Palace. I have something to ask you," Yixian said directly. Chapter 1349. Bei Yang could sense that Yixian was only at the 7th firmament of the fragmentation realm. However, in Fire Cloud Palace, a 7th firmament fragmentation realm was only an outer sect disciple. It was nothing. I'm here to investigate a matter under the orders of my sect. As Yixian spoke, he took out 2 portraits from his interspatial ring. On the portraits were the faces of the Xianming twin specters. Upon seeing the duo, Bei Yang's body trembled slightly. The Xianming twin specters had given him pointers, allowing him to break through to the Nirvana realm after years of shackles. How could he not know them? May I ask if you have seen them before? Inquired Yixian. No. Bei Yang answered without a second thought. Then he asked, why are you looking for them? I'm not sure either. However, if you can find any clues, you will be rewarded with 500 Nirvana pills. If you can find them, you will be rewarded with 2,000 Nirvana pills, said Yixian. In fact, he was just randomly making things up. The moment that was said, Bei Yang was astounded. 500 Nirvana pills? 2,000 Nirvana pills? Just a clue and the reward of 500 Nirvana pills was a pretty good deal. However, he did not know why Fire Cloud Palace was looking for the Xianming twin specters. If they wanted to harm the Xianming twin specters, wouldn't he be an ingrate if he had any clues? Furthermore, he did not know if Yixian was telling the truth. If he were to believe Yixian's one-sided story so easily, he would have wasted his 150 years of life. I don't know them. Leave. Bei Yang finally made a decision as he said to Yixian. Although 500 Nirvana pills was tempting, he had sent the Xianming twin specters into the hands of experts. If he was discovered, he would die without a burial ground. Not only that, even the Bei family that he had built up or even Myriad Treasure City would be destroyed. Upon hearing Bei Yang's answer, Yixian narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, however, why did I hear that you once escorted the 2 of them to the north? This sentence made Bei Yang's wrinkled face tremble. He suddenly shot out 2 beams of light as he bellowed, Humph, I said I haven't seen them, so I haven't. Let me guess, did you go to Void City in the past 2 days? After Yixian finished speaking, he looked at Bei Yang's expression and said, or is it Earthfiend Island? When he heard the words Earthfiend Island, he saw Bei Yang's eyes narrow slightly. Although it was only a split second, and the range was very small, making it difficult for ordinary people to notice who was Yixian. He had the eye of revelation. Even though Bei Yang was already a Nirvana realm powerhouse, he could not escape his eyes. So it is Earthfiend Island. Yixian muttered to himself. Now, he could confirm that Bei Yang had escorted the Xianming duo demons to Earth Emanations Island. Please go back. Bei Yang didn't expect his position to be exposed. He snorted in displeasure. That won't do. I want to know who you gave him to. Yixian continued to ask. Kid, you've disturbed my seclusion. I'll give you 3 seconds to leave this place. Otherwise. Bei Yang narrowed his eyes. Otherwise what? Yixian asked curiously. Bei Yang's eyes suddenly narrowed as he said sternly. Otherwise, even if you are a Fire Cloud Palace disciple, you will be in deep trouble. From the looks of it, Bei Yang was already infuriated. Although Fire Cloud Palace was much stronger than the Myriad Treasures Alliance, Bei Yang had already broken through to the Nirvana realm. Furthermore, he was related to Earthfiend Island. If Fire Cloud Palace wanted to touch him, Earthfiend Island would not sit idly by. To put it simply, apart from breaking through to the Nirvana realm, he had also found a powerful backer. However, Yixian wasn't afraid of Earthfiend Island. At that moment he was pondering over a problem. He already knew the location of the Xianming duo demons. As such, he could avoid this battle. However, he still had some questions to ask Bei Yang. Alright, I won't continue asking about this matter. However, I still have one more thing to ask, Yixian said slowly. However, before he could finish his sentence, Bei Yang immediately chased him away. Scram! Bei Yang roared angrily. It wasn't easy for him to break through to the Nirvana realm. Seclusion was the most important thing for him. He was already unhappy that Yixian had disturbed his seclusion. The reason why he only made a move now was because of Yixian's identity. Facing Bei Yang's punch across the air, Yixian's expression darkened. He immediately took out the Scarlet Flame Sword, which had been forged using the Super Devouring Crystal, and slashed down ruthlessly. Unparalleled Flaming Dragon Slash. A golden flaming dragon whizzed out and collided with Bei Yang's fist. After the two collided intensely, they transformed into a shockwave that swept across the area. A casual strike from a Nirvana realm expert was enough to force Yixian to use his divine power. This was the strength of a Nirvana realm expert. However, the difference between a Nirvana realm expert and a fragmentation realm expert was that a fragmentation realm expert had something new. This new thing was called Nirvana fire. If an attack was infused with this Nirvana fire, it would be extremely powerful. Yixian was afraid of this. Therefore, he didn't want to fight Bei Yang for the time being. Oh? You're quite capable. Bei Yang looked at Yixian with interest. His casual punch was already stronger than an 8th-tier fragmentation realm martial artist's divine power. If he used his full strength, its power would be comparable to a 9th-tier fragmentation realm martial artist's divine power. However, Yixian actually took it head-on. Although he used his divine power, Yixian was only at the 7th tier of the fragmentation realm. Facing Bei Yang's shocked gaze, Yixian went straight to the point. I want to ask, where is the Yin Yang Temple's branch? Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yang shuddered violently. This question gave him a fright. The Yin Yang Temple's branch? Say that again? Bei Yang's eyes widened as if he had heard wrongly. I'm looking for the Yin Yang Temple. You should know. Yixian continued to ask. I should know. Bei Yang's eyes widened. He shouted angrily. Who are you? Why would you ask that? You don't know who I am, answered Yixian. However, his answer seemed to reveal something. You aren't a Fire Cloud Palace disciple. Who are you? Bei Yang's aura suddenly surged as it pressed down on Yixian. The latter found it difficult to breathe. Thankfully, he wasn't an ordinary person. Otherwise, he would have been immobilized by the suppression. In that case, I won't hide it from you. I know you were once a Yin Yang Temple disciple, and my wife was captured by the Yin Yang Temple, so I'm investigating. Yixian felt somewhat helpless. Who asked him to expose himself? He could only admit it. Boom! This answer made Bei Yang's body tremble again. Even his 3 sons didn't know that he was a Yin Yang Temple disciple. However, Yixian actually knew.